In this episode of Keeping It Real on Location, our very own Jeff Manson, founder of Real Geeks, travels to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina to hang out with Greg Harrelson. We catch Greg in action, coaching his team as they set appointments live. He introduces us to his business partners, staff members, and sales agents as we tour his office and dive deep into how they generate more business. Learn how Greg and his team are going to close 2,400 transactions this year by staying focused on income-producing activities and providing amazing service to their clients. Watch how Greg has trained his top agents to do 80 or more transactions in as little as 1 to 3 years in the business through daily rituals, persistence, and continually working on their skills. See how Greg and his agents achieve their goals and crush it year after year.
Hey, we're here on location in Myrtle Beach doing a Keeping It Real. We're hanging out all week with my good friend and longtime client, Greg Harrelson. Thanks for having us, Greg.
Yeah, man, it's been awesome so far, and I'm sure we're going to continue having fun.
I'm totally blown away of the operation and the amount of agents that are so committed on your team. I've never seen anything like this. And whether you're a single agent, a small team, building a team, or even a brokerage, you need to get your pen ready and watch this, because this is going to be one of the most amazing episodes we've done so far. So Greg, can you tell us how you got into the real estate business and your journey to get where you're at? Because right now you're at a level that most people are striving to get to, and most agents or brokerages or even team leaders can't get to. Mm-hmm. But can you kind of go through how you got into real estate business and how we got to where you're at now?
You know, I tell you what, I feel like I've got a pretty interesting journey, and when I look back, I say, wow, I don't think I ever would have designed it the way that it has ended up looking. Uh-huh. But then I look at the journey that I've been on, and I can see exactly why it ended up becoming exactly what it is. In other words, the model, the business model and whatnot. So I started probably 23, 24 years old when I got my license. A lot of people know that I was going to college, wasn't doing so well. So I took up a part-time job with my father, who was already in real estate. Sure. And he was doing maybe 30, 45 transactions a year, somewhere in that range. And I actually would come to the office and prospect in the morning for him. I would call some, in the beginning, cold calls, and then I eventually worked my way up to calling some expires and FSBOs. And I would set appointments for my dad. I would go to school for a couple hours and throughout the day, and then I'd come back in the late evening or late afternoon, early evening, and I'd make more calls. So I really started in the real estate business being a prospector. I got a license and became a prospector
for your dad.
For my dad, versus getting my license and starting in real estate.
Sure.
Now, that was probably for about a year.
Right.
And
that was in your 20s.
Yeah, I was maybe 23, 24, somewhere in that range. Uh-huh. So I did that, and I started to see, and my dad started to see, that this was working out.
Right.
I was actually a prospector for him, setting appointments. He was going on these appointments, and he was landing these listings. His listing inventory was growing. Sales were growing.
Sure.
And I remember, one of the big jumps is probably going from around 45 transactions to 90, 95 transactions.
And that was you and your dad together?
That was me and my dad.
Okay.
Yeah, that was really, I would say it was almost more my dad, because I was the young guy that really didn't know much, but I started to really grasp the concept of prospecting, lead generation. And to toot my own horn, I would say I got pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And so when we started to see that paying off, in the form of increased production, then I decided that I was going to go full-time into real estate, and I was going to continue prospecting, and then eventually I would I started working with some buyers, because my dad was working the listings.
Sure.
And now all of a sudden we're doing, over 100 transactions. I was great at working buyers. Now, my conversion ratio was probably 90%. Like if I took 10 buyers out, 9 of them was going to buy, but I'd only take 2 out.
Right.
So I was so extreme at qualifying the buyer
to make sure they were fully qualified and they had to jump through hoops.
Yeah, that made them jump through hoops. I never went on many buyer appointments.
Sure.
I was eliminating probably quality leads because at that time we didn't have this document where they would sign, this contract,
buyer-broker
right?
agreement.
So what I would do is I actually would sit down across from them at the office, and I'd say, one question that's very important that I have to ask. I want to know if you're going to be loyal to me. I know you're going to expect me to be loyal to you. That means to me, if you find a nice property that you want to see because you see it in the real estate magazine, are you going to call me or are you going to call the other agent? It means if you see a for sale by owner, are you going to call the for sale owner or are you going to call me to call your for sale owner? I need to know that you're going to be 100% committed to me.
Sure.
And I would have people say, well, look, if I see a for sale by owner, I'm going to stop by. I would say, I really appreciate your integrity. I'm sorry I can't work with you.
Right.
So I was eliminating so many opportunities. Now, I'm not suggesting that anybody do that.
Right.
But just to share with you my journey, I was working with buyers in the beginning, but I was so strict that I did very few buyer deals.
Sure.
And I finally said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to focus on listings.
Got it.
Then
you transitioned into a listing agent.
Then
Was that with your father, or then you kind of broke on your own?
Then my dad and I became a team.
A team, so partners.
Yes,
then.
Basically partners. And then I started listing. Then we started doing 200 deals, 300 deals. We got to around 300 transactions a couple years in a row.
And that's just the two of you? Did you guys bring on a buyer's agent?
By the time we had 300 deals, we already had a buyer's agent. Her name was Jill. She came on and started working all of our buyers because he and I were not working any buyers.
Right.
So it was lost business. We brought her in. She started doing transactions. We eventually ended up getting another agent to come in and train them on how to do listings. And so it became myself, one other agent doing listings, Jill doing buyers. And then at that point, my dad would go on overflow listing appointments, but he started negotiating deals, doing price reductions, and just managing a few assistants that we had.
Right, so he came more the manager and
That's
kind of
right.
stepped back a little bit and then helped wherever he needed to help.
Yeah, and it was somewhere in the 300 deals a couple years in a row where I had to have a real serious conversation with my dad, and we're business partners. But he's still my dad, right? And the conversation was, Dad, I need to take over this operation because I think that I want to drive this to another level, and things need to change a little bit. And he was kind of the leader for the first couple of years.
Right.
It was it was a tough conversation that in the end ended up great because he allowed me to take over the business.
Sure.
I then started kind of expanding, bringing on a few more team members. I was a Mike Ferry coach at this time.
Sure, yeah.
So not only was I listing property, I was gaining a lot of experience by coaching for Mike and coaching real estate agents around the country. So I was actually gaining some coaching experience. And it's why I say that when I look back at my journey and I look at the company that I have now, I didn't design it exactly like this, but everything is perfectly lined up to put me where I am.
So everything you did in your whole journey set you up for where you're at today.
Exactly. Number one, I was a prospector.
Right.
You've seen prospecting.
It's the core to any fundamental sales business.
And when you see this operation this week, you can see everyone's prospecting.
It's amazing.
Right? Then the next thing you know, I was a listing agent.
Sure.
As you can see, we dominate the listing inventory in the market that we're in. Then I have the experience from coaching with Mike Ferry. As you can see that you've been here, you see my focus is developing talent. It's coaching these real estate agents and not having the focus be on Greg Harrelson. It's putting the focus on them. My goal is to develop top producers. And if I develop enough top producers within my operation, then my company will be a top producing company. That's how I view it.
So you're looking to coach them and empower them to almost be their own entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. I mean,
within your company, your organization.
My goal is to bring people into the business.
Sure.
Make them agents. Take agents, develop them to be top producers. Take top producers, develop them to be entrepreneurs, and eventually take some of those entrepreneurs and make them my partners, which I've actually done. Right. And you'll hear a little bit more about that.
That's awesome.
As we.
So that got you a certain point, and you were building, and then Can you share like kind of where you're at now, your current office, how many offices, the markets that you serve, and how that looks?
Yeah. So right now I have 4 offices. I have 2 in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, 1 in North Myrtle Beach,
Sure.
1 in Myrtle Beach, and then I have 2 in the Charleston, South Carolina area, 1 in West Ashley, and 1 in Somerville.
Okay.
And those 2 offices are newer offices. We're actually now, taking the systems that we're doing in Myrtle Beach, we're cloning them, duplicating the systems that we have here in Charleston, and now bringing on agents to our team and focusing on coaching those agents to help them become top producers.
Okay.
So we build our company based on building our agents.
Right.
It's not there is no such thing in my mind of building a company. You build your agents, and your company is just built by default.
So that's a good question, because a lot of people always say like, hey, is Greg a company? Is he a team? He owns these brokerages, but they don't look like a normal brokerage, and the agents in here don't act like normal agents within a normal brokerage, right? I mean, you've got these agents focused like no other. So what do you consider yourself, a brokerage or a team?
The mega teams that are out there in the industry right now, they're all going to tell you I'm a company.
Sure.
All the great companies are going to tell you I'm a team.
Right.
Okay, and the reason is because when they start looking at rankings, they want to say, well, no, he's really not a team.
Sure.
So his numbers are really not that.
Right.
Or the company's like, oh no, he's really a team, so that's not really a representation. He shouldn't be on this list.
He shouldn't be on this company list.
Yeah, so the reality is I feel like I'm a hybrid. But internally, every single person in my operation is part of my team. My company is my team. The only thing that really divides or determines whether I'm a brokerage company or a team is the fact that we are a team, and I happen to own the asset called a company or a brokerage, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But when it comes down to what does a team do? A team has a team leader, somebody that's going to go in there and organize the infrastructure. They're going to have, processing staff. They're going to have agents, and they're going to have coaching, and they're going to be having systems that deliver leads.
Sure.
I'm doing all of that.
So
your Real Geeks website, for example, we're generating about 400 leads per week.
Right.
And I'm not even doing pay-per-click. But how did we get there? Because one of my responsibilities is to develop web assets.
Sure.
And to bring in the systems and then push that down to the team and push those leads to them. Then my job is to coach them on how to convert those leads. And then when those leads are actually converted, it's to help manage the processing to closing. So if you think about that, that would be like a team.
Sure, it's
and that's
exactly
what
what a team.
But I do own the company. Right. So you will let the audience determine whether I'm a team or not. It's really nothing that's important to me.
What does the production look like? Because I know that the production per agent is way above the average here.
Yeah, so our per person production at this particular office right here is probably around 28 transactions.
28 transactions, and that includes brand new agents that you're molding and training and
that
bringing
will
in.
include, so the way that per person production works is once somebody does one transaction, then they're triggered in, right?
Right.
So that would include somebody's brand new and they just did one transaction, then they're factored into the mix.
So
it's
about
right around
28 average.
per
that
person.
Is phenomenal.
The total transactions that we're going to do is going to be around 2,400 closings at the end of the day. That's what we're projected to do.
That's with all the companies?
That's all the companies. Yeah.
All the companies, okay. Mm-hmm. All right, 2,400 transactions.
What's fantastic is, we have the North Myrtle Beach office. We have the offices in Charleston.
Sure.
But I don't duplicate a lot of the infrastructure. In other words, the closing coordinator for Myrtle Beach is also the closing coordinator team that works North Myrtle Beach, also the closing coordinator team that's in Charleston. So I'm not duplicating all of that infrastructure and staffing. Basically, Myrtle Beach is my corporate office or my hub. And what I do is I go out there, build the assets like web assets, social media assets, and the lead flow in each one of the marketplaces or offices. But I actually house all the infrastructure in one location.
Here in Myrtle Beach. Okay,
yeah. So it's easier for training, and it's much more profitable when it's very efficient doing it.
So it can be scaled.
Even the bookkeeper that's cutting checks downstairs right now, I can assure she's cutting commission checks for Charleston, for North Myrtle Beach, and for this office.
All right, so let's start looking deeper into the operation and the support that you have for the agents. Mm-hmm. As far as the transaction manager, you said they're located here in Myrtle Beach. How does that help the agents become more productive? So how does that look?
We have a listing coordinator, okay? I guess we should say we have a listing coordination team. It's really only her, one person in my office as well as 2 virtual assistants.
Sure.
And so when the leads or when the listings come in, an agent gets a listing, they put it into Loop, and that triggers a series of events.
Sure.
The VA team is out there, posting here, putting it on social media, putting pictures on Pinterest, blogging, they're putting it into the MLS. Technically, she's part of the listing team, but my social media, the marketing manager is really guiding her on how to do all the social
we'll
media.
dive
She
deeper
really
into
trains
that.
that. Yeah, I think we're going to get into that. The agents here are not responsible for putting their listings into the MLS. My staff is going to handle all that. My agents are not going to be responsible for setting up showings. Our staff and our systems are going to handle that.
Sure. So you've set that up.
It's all set up.
Away from
and
them
it's
so
the
they
same
can
thing.
focus on what's most important.
Yes, and in Charleston, when they get a listing, it's the same listing team in Myrtle Beach. So everything's working the same way, right? Then let's just assume for a moment that listing now gets an offer. Well, the real estate agent's going to negotiate their offer.
Sure.
And assume it gets ratified. Now it's a
Goes
pending.
under contract.
Goes under contract. They're going to put it back in Loop again. And then when they put it into Loop, there's a whole series. There's a team. I call that the closing team. The closing team's going to come in, take that information. The broker's going to read that contract, make sure everything's compliant and it's solid. There's nothing left out.
Sure.
It goes to the closing coordinators. They make contact with the other agent. They make contact with the seller or the buyer, depending on who we represent.
Sure.
And they start that conversation and let them know that they are taking this over and they're going to hold their hand all the way to closing, including things like a termite inspection is going to come in. And let's just say the termite inspection has some negative reports on it. That closing coordinator who's licensed is going to take that report, dissect it, call the seller, let the seller know that there's an issue, call the other agent, ask the agent what they would like to do about it. That other agent's probably going to want a concession or want to renegotiate. My closing coordinator has been, or my team, I've got closing coordinators that have been with me for 17 years.
Wow.
They know what
so
they're doing.
Trained.
They're better than the agents.
They're better than the agents.
They're better than, my coordinating team is solid. So they are capable of taking that home inspection that has a problem, the termite report that has a problem, and renegotiating the entire deal with the other agent, the buyer or seller, whoever we're actually representing, and leaving the real estate agent out of the picture. Now, we're not going to let deals fall through.
Of course not.
So if the deal's about ready to fall through and the coordinator's not able to get it, then they're going to call the agent.
And then they bring them in to help them. Okay.
And the agent will know, if they're bringing me in, it's because I'm probably the only one that can save it.
Sure.
So you did ask, how does that help the agent? So if you think about it, my goal is to bring agents in and coach them how to generate business, how to create business, how to communicate and have conversations to convert business. Well, if I've got a team of agents that their skill sets are that high, the last thing I want them doing is investing time in the maintenance of transactions, in the processing of paperwork. So people always ask, well, how do you get these agents to show up in the morning? Because they don't have to open up their email and see all these problems because the closing department's taking care of it. They don't have anything else to do but show up. So they show up, they do their work based on how many contacts they want to make per year. They set that goal themselves.
And go on appointments
and they
work
start,
with
so the bottom line is they can invest more time in building their business versus servicing their business. And that's one of the things that I think has plays a huge role in the amount of production that somebody's able to do.
All right, so you basically set it up for them to be successful and take away all the distractions and all the busy work so they can focus on generating business, working with customers, and putting deals together, going on appointments.
Yeah, I mean,
you're handling everything else. You've got everything else handled for them.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I focus on generating leads to give to them.
Yeah, so you personally, as a company, focus on generating leads to bring those in.
Well, obviously, the Real Geeks, the buyers coming off the website.
Right, and sellers as well, right?
We do use Zillow. We're using the Facebook tool religiously. We have, and we might talk about that a little bit more. I have a marketing staff, and there's somebody posting multiple Facebook ads on a daily basis. Now, we're
Sure.
not spending a ton of money because we've really dialed our systems in, but we're using the posting tool on the Real Geeks website, and we're generating seller leads. So I think last month we may have generated 100 to 150 seller
Sure.
leads off of that at a very, very low cost. I think the cost was on average maybe $1.16, maybe $1.25, somewhere in that
And
range.
that's using Facebook marketing tool, driving it to the home valuation
Yeah,
tool.
the Facebook posting tool on the Real Geek site,
Right.
driving it through the valuation, and then it being distributed
All right.
out to the agents that work sellers.
Right. And then what about like the coaching? Because I know that you coach heavily and help train the agents.
Yes.
And you're in there every day with them.
My leadership style is I like to be in the trenches
Sure.
with the troops. I don't like to call the shots from 2 miles behind the front line and say, hey, based on the infrared or based on the satellite, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not my style.
Sure.
I'm that guy I've been in the trenches as a real estate agent. I did a fairly good job at producing a lot of volume. I love and live to be in the trenches. So I have an office downstairs, and it's a decent office. It's
Sure.
a nice office. I don't even know that you've even seen it.
No, I haven't even seen it.
And the reason why you haven't seen it is because I don't ever see it.
Right.
I show up just like my agents. I go into the room where they're prospecting. I actually do my work, there, and I'm listening and observing. I got a good idea what's going on in the market because I hear 20 or 30 real estate agents talking every day.
Sure.
So I can pick up on what objections are they getting right now.
Right.
Or what are people saying? What I can hear what they're addressing.
Sure.
And then I can tailor the coaching based on the cues that they're giving me. Or you might be, calling your centers of influence or calling for sub-owners, and I'm listening to you because I'm in the room, and I might hear like, oh gosh, say this or say that.
Sure.
So I'm coaching you on demand and helping you convert transactions. Here's something I always thought, that when I love to coach when the result of my coaching could actually have an immediate return. So me being in the room and seeing somebody over there that's maybe stumbling in the conversation
Sure.
and going in and saying, hey, say this, say that, say this. And I converted that conversation, helped them convert that conversation into an appointment when there was no possible way they were going to get an appointment
Sure.
if I didn't step in. Well, see, that means not only did I coach them for the future, but I coach them and help them convert today. That's a huge ROI on my time. And I don't track as much return on investment as I do ROT, which is return on time.
Sure.
And I think return on time is high when I'm in the coaching mode.
When you're in the coaching mode and you're in there with them all day.
Assuming I don't have an appointment.
Yeah, of
or
course.
meeting,
All right.
that
But
kind
usually,
of thing.
and what time does everybody get in here and get to work?
Yeah. Typically you're going to, first of all, you're going to see most of these people in the gym at 5 o'clock.
Sure.
Okay. And they're just getting their bodies going, getting sharp, getting their minds going, get the blood flowing. But you'll see that if you show up at my office at 8 o'clock, you're going to have a hard time finding a parking place. Okay, so anywhere between 7:45, 7:50, 7:30, people are rolling in, and what they're doing is they look at themselves a lot of times as professional athletes.
Sure.
So we know that game time is 8.
Right.
So Michael Jordan never showed up to the gym at 8. He never came to the Coliseum at 8. He always came to the Coliseum earlier, had a morning routine, and then it would be game time, buzzer go off, and he would, be out running. Well, we're kind of treating it the same way. So 8 o'clock, everyone's here and they're on the phones.
So what's a typical agent's schedule within your office?
Doing some sort of exercise. Probably 5:30 in the morning. Getting at the office around 7:45. Starting calls at 8. Now, when I say starting calls, not everyone's prospecting for listings. There's people out there working buyers, and they're calling the buyer leads that came in the night before, follow up and whatnot, and they're doing that for 3 straight hours.
Right.
So we call it a ritual. I've divided their day into 2 segments. I coach them that you've got the ritual, and then you've got a schedule. A ritual is something that never is broken. You never deviate from the ritual. I always think of watching National Geographic and seeing where this tribe has got this ritual on every Thursday at 6 p.m. They have to walk half a mile and they have to do these certain things. And doesn't matter if your leg's broke, it's no excuse. Somebody else in the tribe will go pick you up and carry you because it would be an absolute sin to not follow the ritual.
The ritual is 8 to 11, and that's in the office, making telephone calls.
Generating business. It's lead generation time, whether you're making calls or doing something else, and generating business.
That's the ritual. And for many of them, the ritual is also working out before that.
For a lot of people. A lot of people, that is the case. Not everybody, but
Sure.
that is the case. A lot of people, that's kind of the culture here, is people start to get a little bit more involved in becoming more active.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about being more involved with your family and making sure that yes, we want to reach high goals, but we don't want to do it at the expense of our health or the expense of our relationships. I think we're going to talk with KJ, where he's doing a great amount of business, but what he's doing with his family and his son with baseball is just incredible.
KJ Juergen, how we doing? Oh goodness. Oh my goodness. Are you okay, or you looking for a house? Okay. What kind of price range are you wanting to be in? Okay, yeah, it's gonna be tough getting to Market Commons then. Bell Grove? Okay. Have you looked at anything yet, or? Okay, well, it's good timing that I called you then. I had you on my follow-up list today because I hadn't spoken with you in a while and wanted to kind of see how things were going. Well, well, that's the same thing we talked about a while back, that was eventually going to, be the case, and I hate to hear that it's happened, but Miss Ann, now do y'all need to sell yours before you buy anything else, or can y'all buy? You do? Okay. Okay. You got my cell number, right? This isn't my cell number here. So why don't you call me when you get a minute, and let's see if we can set a time. Let me come by and sit and talk with y'all again. All right? All right. Bye-bye. All right. Bye-bye. All right. So that was a call there I just took with a database call. People I've been talking to for a while, they're also centers of influence. It's an older couple. They live in a 2-story house and had been telling me for a while, we need to sell, but they didn't want to put it on the market. Well, I happened to call them today, and they just fell down the stairs last week, and now they're ready to list. She goes, it was crazy you calling me today. What timing? So just called her. She's speaking with him, supposed to be giving me a call back here in just a minute. And we will go ahead and set an appointment for me to get out there and get the house listed. So again, working my database, just following up with people that I hadn't spoke with in a while, and just led to an appointment right there.
So here we have KJ Juergen. He's a great team member, been with the company for quite a while. Just wanted to introduce him to you and let him share some information about his journey. And so KJ, why don't we just start with, how did we connect? I think you've been here about 8 years.
About 8 years now.
And how did we connect in the first place?
Well, I'd been in the business for a little while. Obviously knew a couple agents that were working with you. Mm-hmm. They had talked to me about, maybe coming over here. I was kind of looking for a change at that time, and had kind of got me in to meet with you and come over and met with you and kind of went from there.
8 years ago, so it's about 2011?
2010.
2010, so we're in probably in our 9th year.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about your journey, because you've done very well. I mean, you're doing, how many transactions you think you'll do this year?
I should be somewhere between 75 and 80.
75 and 80, and as well as being pretty much a baseball coach for your son, and doing a lot of traveling, because you guys are very serious about baseball, and I know you're very serious about family in general. So one of the things that I really enjoy about having you within the company is you're a great example of somebody who can really do well from a business standpoint, but also thrive from a family standpoint and a personal standpoint. But why don't you just kind of go back and talk about your journey when you first started, and kind of what led us to here today?
Well, I mean, obviously, Greg, I've been in the business now, I think, going on year about 19, I believe.
Okay.
It was a family business, worked with my parents. And, of course, when the market started crashing, back in 06, I guess it was, my business started going down as well. And I was quickly going down the toilet right into bankruptcy. And I knew I had to make a change. I needed something with a little bit more structure and accountability, more of a team-type environment. I was pretty much by myself over there. And it was Greg Sisson and then Brendon Payne that actually got me in to meet with you. And I remember the day we met and our interview and everything, and you kind of telling me what we did here. And obviously I've lived here my entire life, so you heard a lot of people saying, well, gosh, they do a lot of that prospecting over there. And I remember making the comment to them, well, I don't know what they're doing, but what they're doing is working. I mean, they're number one for a reason. So, jumped in, come and met with you and liked everything about you and what you said, and kind of got in and jumped right in, feet first, head first, whatever you want to call it. And pretty much the first 2.5 years, I say I grinded out pretty hard because I was about broke and busted at that time.
I remember.
I was whatever you told me to do, that's what I was doing, So I remember I started, making a certain amount of contacts, and then I got into Mojo, the automatic dollar, and I was going up to 70, 80 contacts, working mornings, nights, and weekends, and building my database up real big. And I think my first year I believe it was around 18 or 19 deals, and then it went up to right around 50. My second year, and by year 3 I was, I think, around 70, and it went to 75, then it went to 82, and that's kind of, now my kids have gotten to that age, you're talking about baseball, where I've been taking a lot of time off, spending a lot of time with them and traveling with the baseball. My little girl ride horses and stuff. So the hours I put in nowadays, of course, is nothing like what it was back when I first started. So obviously, if I was continuing on that same path of where I was, my business would have and should have been a lot more than what it is. But
and I wouldn't say should have been, because I think your business is exactly where it should be.
Yeah.
Because we've had a lot of conversations together.
We've talked about it.
We've really talked about what do we really want. Not and that doesn't mean what do we want in business. I mean, what do we want?
Yep.
And with you were very, very adamant about making sure that your kids and your wife knew that knew who you were, that knew that you were involved, saw you on the sidelines, saw you, in the fields, wherever you might be. And so I think, you're exactly where you should be.
That's right.
And in a couple years from now, maybe you'll have some different goals, and we'll figure out a business plan there. One question that I have, though, that just came to my mind is, before you came to the company, people were saying, "Oh man, look out! They, those guys prospect, right? Or they make a lot of calls over there.
Make a lot of phone calls, yeah.
And I get
cold calls,
a lot of cold calls, right?
Calls,
and I get it, and it's definitely one thing that we're really known for. But being on the outside and now being on the inside, we know what the perception is on the outside. Oh, they just make a lot of calls. But now that you've been on the inside, because you've experienced both sides.
Both sides.
What is your perspective of making calls now that you really know what it's all about and what we're really doing?
Well, I mean, now that I've done it, I kind of look at I don't know how people do business without it. So it's like I look back at the business I was doing before, and a lot of it was my centers of influence, people I knew, but I was really never making a lot of contacts. They were more, I was kind of one of those agents, the passive agents. I was sitting there kind of waiting, and the business was coming to me, but the market was going crazy, and it was, it was working, But obviously when the market changed and we got back to reality, I don't know how people were able to do it, because, I bought right into it. I like talking to people. I don't have a problem getting on the phone and making a cold call. A lot of people, that makes them nervous and they want to resist it. But I guess the big thing is, we're talking about family and where I was at. I'm the provider of my family as well, and I was willing to do whatever I had to do at that point to be sure I was providing for my family and got my real estate business back going again. But again, I jumped right in, and I never looked back.
Yeah, you got comfortable very quickly.
Comfortable, but Greg, I'm gonna tell you this. The first day, I'll never forget, I was like, okay, because I was standing right next to you. He's like, so I said, what do I need to do? He says, just start calling people. I said, who? He was like, I don't care. Just start, grab your phone. Just start going through your phone. Just start dialing everybody. Get their names, get their emails, whatever. And I think there was even one day you had me calling out of the phone book. He said, just pick a number in the local area, just start calling them up. And he goes, it'll get you used to the conversations. I said, what do I say? It don't matter.
Yeah.
You'll learn at that time. And then we got into the role plays and stuff afterwards. But I think you broke me in a little different, a lot of what you do, a lot of these agents nowadays.
Well, because everybody's different.
Everybody's
right?
different.
Yeah,
that's
so,
right.
There's not one training program for all agents. It's not one size fits all.
That's right.
Everyone's got a different personality. There's a lot of things that I tell you that I never tell anybody else, and vice versa.
Sure.
And I think the strategy that I was using with you is like I wasn't really concerned whether or not you had the ability to communicate. It's just a matter of getting over that little hurdle of going from not really making calls to now making calls. So that's why it didn't matter who you were calling or what you were going to say.
Oh, yeah.
It was just a matter of getting
Just
into
do
the
it.
routine.
Yeah, just start doing it.
And when you're making the calls, because I think one of your skill sets is building rapport, and you're just phenomenal at that. I think one of the best that I've seen. So when you're making calls, you're not really calling people to try to convince them to sell. Okay, what are you really doing when you're making calls? What is it all about?
I guess building a relationship with them. I mean, you know, because a lot of the people, whether they're my centers of influence, which, you know, a lot of my business still today comes from that, but a big chunk of it comes from database and people I've been talking to through the years and keeping up with the market. You know, I guess in doing what I've been doing with you for so long, I guess I finally learned after a couple years of us talking and doing some role plays and going through things that was listening to the people. You know, I'm asking questions, like I've got certain questions I'm going to ask because I need to kind of know where you're at, but was really listening to what they're saying, you know, and letting them know, you know, it doesn't matter to me if you sell it now or 5 years from now or 10 years from now. It's completely up to you. That's right. But finding out what they were wanting and what their goals were in the next year to 2 years to 5 years or whatever it might be. And it got me, I guess, really being a good listener and listening to people on the phone to kind of hearing what they were wanting. But I mean, obviously at the end of the day, we're in sales and obviously I'm trying to want them to list their property and want them to sell. But I think the big thing with me with the rapport with them as well is I wasn't ever pushing them. You know, I would kind of listen to them, give them advice and some things to think about. And
yeah, so you give them information, and with that information, if they choose to sell, you're gonna be a great salesman is you're gonna convince them that you're the most qualified person for the job of helping them, but you're never gonna actually try to convince them to sell if that's not something that they want to do. So I think that's a very good thing for the audience to be able to kind of pick up on. So let's just kind of finish with, tell us a little bit about your routine. What is your daily routine? We'll wrap up.
Well, I'm just now, of course, getting back. You know me, so obviously y'all out here don't. But I've been one of these with the gym in the morning where the guy used to always tell me at CrossFit, you just glutton for pain. You must like the pain. He goes, because I'm one of those. I'd go to the gym for 2 or 3 months. I'd quit for 2 months, and I'd start all over again. But when things are on my normal process, obviously I'm at the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm usually here at the office by 7:45. By 8 o'clock, I'm picking up the phones and dialing, whether it's expireds or for sale by owners or COIs, database, cold calls, you know, whatever I'm doing. A lot of times it rotates depending on what timing of the year we're in, but usually work my calls, do my appointments, you know, obviously during the afternoon. And I've got an assistant, obviously, after a while, finally got that. She kind of handles all my emails and stuff for me, and that's, you know, usually appointments in the afternoon. And it's usually my daily process.
If you do your job in the morning, which is the prospect, then you'll always have something to do called appointments in the afternoon. You don't have to worry about it.
Like
It takes
you've
care of
always
itself.
said, I mean, when I get done what I need to do in the morning, it pretty much sets my whole day. You know, if we've talked about it so many times, obviously this first time they're hearing me, but if I don't do what I need to do in the morning, the rest of the day doesn't even matter. I mean, it's what I do from 8 to 11 in the morning that basically sets my day and usually sets my week, sets my month, sets my year, you know. So it's, you know, showing up and getting done what I need to do.
Well, good. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing. I think there's be a lot of value to the audience out there, so thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Hey, it's Kevin Mills of Century 21 down here in Myrtle Beach. How are you doing today? Great. I just wanted to give you a quick call. Obviously saw where the property over here in Sand Dunes came off the market and failed to sell, and I just wanted to touch base, see if it's something you guys were possibly thinking of interviewing a more aggressive agent for the job of getting the property sold. Yeah, fantastic. Just curious. I mean, did you guys have any offers while I was on the market last? Okay, you did. Low offers or? Okay, yeah, absolutely. No, just curious. Obviously, I mean, what do you think stopped the property from selling? Do you think it was the condition of the property? Yeah, that's where I thought. No, the property looked in great condition. That's what I was seeing from this end. Just curious, man, what was the agent telling you as to why the property wasn't getting sold? Okay. weren't really getting too much communication. Well, I'll tell you on this end, that's one thing that I really pride myself in is my communication with my clients. So on my side, I actually have a client care coordinator who's contacting my staff on a daily basis just to let them know exactly what we're doing on this side to get their property aggressively marketing, getting it sold as well. Just curious, I saw you were on for about 180 days, so about a 6-month period. In that period, I mean, would you guys ever go under contract even? To know. Never went under contract. Now, just curious, what had you thinking of possibly getting the property sold? Yeah, no, I completely understand. Yeah, just not getting the use out of it. Well, I can tell you this, Miss C. I mean, I definitely know the building well. I've done quite a few sales in there. And if you take a look so far, you had one in your exact same stack close out for $66,500. It was unit 1040, which was actually the one right, or it was actually beside you. I'm sorry, you're 1042. It was 1040. Close out right next to you for $66,500. The exact same view. I know you were active at $73,900. Just curious, if an offer came in around there, would you even consider it? Okay, you would counter. Just curious. I mean, if they came in at $66,000, where would you counter? Yeah, no, I completely understand. Yeah, I mean, $70,000, yeah. And I mean, if they came up to 67, 68, I mean, do you think you would accept that? Possibly. No, absolutely. Well, I can tell you this, Miss She. I'm 100% confident we can get this property sold for the most amount of money, and we can get you out of this property by the end of the year. Just curious, would it benefit you to sell this by the end of the year? Tax reasons or obviously your holding costs, because it's not a rental, or it's a rental property for you. So I mean, by the end of the year, I mean something where you're obviously not going to have too many more rental incomes, because obviously you rent this out in the summer and it's pretty much holding costs in the fall season. So I mean, it obviously would benefit you to sell it before the end of the year, correct? Perfect. So I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, would you consider putting it on at $69,000? We can get it aggressively marketed, obviously get all the photos done, everything on that end. That way we can go back on with a more aggressive approach and get it sold. Okay, yeah. I mean, do you own this with any other partners? Okay, your husband. Just curious, I mean, is he home? No, he's at work. So, I mean, just curious, I mean, as far as the decision, obviously, I don't make any decisions without consulting my wife. I'm sure you do this similar with your husband, but just curious, I mean, do you think he would be okay with putting it on at $69,900 and getting it sold? Fantastic. Well, this is what I want to do, Ms. She. If you have a good email address, what I can do is I can already have my staff send you over all the documents I need to market the property at $69,900. That way we can talk you through on how to e-sign that contract virtually. That way, as soon as you get the signatures done, we can go ahead and start doing the photos, the videos, everything on this thing, get it back live and actually get it sold. And what I can do is what time does your husband get off work? Be home about 6:30. What I can do is I can put it in my schedule to reach back out at 6:30 this afternoon, just so I can go over all this information with him as well, and I can talk him through how to sign it as well. Does that make sense? Perfect. Well, what's a good email address for you, Ms. She?
Josh, probably after
What I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot this over to you right now. I'll have my staff do it. They'll give you a call, go over everything, and then I'll reach back out at 6:30 to speak to your husband. Does that sound fair enough? Perfect. Perfect. Well, what I'll do is I'll make the note right here. I look forward to working with you and getting the property sold, okay? All right. Thanks for your time. So that was a good one. So that was an expired from today. Came off the market, failed to sell, was on the market for 6 months, was on the market not really too overpriced, but if I looked at their photos, it was just done by a camera phone. So in our condo buildings, you have 5, 10, 15 units for sale at a time. So really people are only going to look at 4 or 5 units at when they come down to visit these properties. So you want to make sure that these properties, or your properties marketed aggressively, also has the best photos and videos. So it's one of the 5, one of the 6 that people want to come down here and see from this end. So I think that was one of the biggest things, but also I think it was $3,000, $4,000 overpriced just based on where the market is right now. So she agreed to the market reduction. She agreed to have me go ahead and e-sign over paperwork to her. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to get with my assistant. She's going to e-sign paperwork over in the next 5 minutes. She's going to give her a call, walk her through it while she's on the phone with her, and then I'm going to call her back at 6:30 to speak with her husband just to confirm it's okay. According to her, she makes all the decisions on this end, or she's been the main decision maker, and he just wants the property gone. So I'm assuming that's not going to be a problem. But with these new expireds, they're going to get blown up today. So she's going to get a lot of phone calls. So I want to make sure, first off, I lock down her signature. That way she feels she's committed. So any agent who calls, she's committed at this point signing. And then I want to lock his down just so we're fully ratified. We can go on the market and get the property sold. So that was a good expired from today. I probably called her 9 times, 8 or 9 times before I got her on the phone. So that just goes to show persistent follow-up's key with these new expires, just to go ahead, get them on the phone. That way, when you do get them on, you can close them down and end up sending out paperwork.
Okay, so I wanted to introduce you to another one of our great agents, Kevin Mills. You've been with the company for how long?
This will be my 3rd year. Third full year.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, why don't you just kind of tell the audience, how we connected, and maybe a little bit about the journey and that you've been on, and kind of where you are today.
Absolutely. So started in car sales. So through car sales, graduated from the University of South Carolina and had to get a job instantly. So on that, started with car sales, went there for about 6-7 months. And after that, I realized that people were dying to service, not me. And I wanted to get into a sales industry where somebody would have to deny me. So I figured real estate was a good transaction. I've done a couple car loans with people who were in real estate. So on this end, I wanted to really find a good real estate company. So I did my research, went on Google, started researching who was doing transactions, what company came up the most often, who was rated the top one, and came across this company first. Actually didn't even see any other companies out there. This one just kind of appeared on everything. Came straight to the office, made a phone call, found out where the office was, came here, met your partner Jan, and spoke with Jan for a little while on the first day, shadowed a few agents, and then just started from there.
Yeah.
So just kind of just jumped right into it.
Yeah, and this is your...
this will be my 3rd year.
Yeah, so we're almost completing your 3rd year. So tell me, what kind of production are you projected to do? I mean, we're winding up the year, so where are you?
So this year I'll do about 185 transactions, which is mainly on the seller side. There'll be 3 or 4 buyer deals in there, just from people that have already sold their property that are also buying in this market. But that's strictly on the listing side.
Yeah, so your first year, your first full 12 months, because you were a new licensee.
Correct.
So the first 12 months after getting your license,
Right.
how many transactions did you do?
Just north of 40. I think it was 40, 41, somewhere right in there.
I think it was 42. But
Yeah.
So the second year?
Just north of 80.
Okay.
So on paper, I think it was just north of 80 on that year. So
Yeah,
about
so what we've
100%
got
drop.
here is we've got 40 transactions, 80 transactions, and now 180 transactions. For those of you listening, that's a pretty nice trajectory. It's not something that we hear a lot about. We don't see a lot of examples of that. So Kevin, what the heck are you doing? Like, how are you pulling this
Following
off?
the system. I mean, it's something where I think that I'm pretty coachable.
Yes.
I try to listen pretty much a lot because...
You've gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
Like, not only is your business following this trajectory, but business maturity, and that doesn't mean you were in a bad
100%.
place,
Yeah.
but business maturity is starting to see a nice trajectory also.
100%
And I
agree.
think that has a lot to do with it. But still, you're hustling, obviously.
Right.
So what are some of the strategies, or what is it about you that you could share that's helping you get to where you're going?
I wish that there was a simple thing. I wish there was just one simple thing that I could tell everybody to do and their business would automatically take a jump. Mine, I think, is being coachable, but also putting in the time. So on my end, I can't remember the last day I missed prospecting, where I wasn't out of time. I mean, every Monday through Friday, I'm prospecting 8 to 11. I'm prospecting 90% from 4 to 6:30, 4 to 7 o'clock every single night. I'm in here every single Saturday from 10 or about 9 to about 11. And on Sundays, I prospect in the afternoons. So I'm making a ton of phone calls. I'm putting in a lot of time, a lot of energy. When I started, we learned the scripts. So I was very diligent in memorizing those scripts. So I learned what to say, and I think that gave me a lot of confidence right off the bat. So when I started, I was very confident, even though I didn't do any transactions, because I knew the conversation. I knew the objection handlers. And being in the office environment that we're in, obviously you hear a lot of conversations as well. You hear other people doing the scripts doing extremely well, so you kind of pick up off that energy, and you just start really making a lot of phone calls. So I think that that's one good thing. And obviously having you as a coach. So I mean, having you as my coach, my mentor, you've been there, you've done that. So just listening to your steps along the way and your coaching on a daily basis has really helped.
I appreciate you saying that. And I think one of the things that what's resonating with me as you're talking is the environment itself. It's 100%. Like you come in brand new, you're willing to role play, memorize, and internalize and personalize the script. So you're willing to master the conversation. So if you're role playing and you're focusing on on mastering the scripts, mastering the conversation, and then you're in an environment where you've been told what to do, but to be able to see other successful people doing it should give you some confidence that,
That's
hey,
huge.
if I'll just follow this program, I'll actually get there. And that's one of the things that, that I'm observing about you, is that you're putting in the work, and then you're also taking advantage of the environment that's around you, as well as giving to the environment. Because I think a lot of people are now starting to look at you and starting to learn and saying, hey, this is a great opportunity, to shadow, Kevin, and maybe I should do some of the things that he's doing. What's one or two things that you would say to some agent that was starting out year one like you?
Follow the process. I mean, just follow the process.
What is the process?
Yeah. So the process is showing up, and then going off the process when I got started was showing up before 8 o'clock. So I now show up 6:30, 7 o'clock every morning, just because I want to get my day started right. But at the beginning, I showed up 7:45, 15 minutes before we started calling, got all my call list in front of me, and then I just prospected 8 to 11. Well, when I first started, I prospected all day because I didn't have any appointments. Yeah. So I just 100% prospected. So I really got focused on that. So I think that's the biggest part, because you're not going to see really an immediate return. Mm-hmm. You're building a database, you're building your follow-up file, and it gets hard. I mean, I remember I was 6 months in and down to hardly any, or 4 months in, hardly down to anything in my bank account before I really started getting the return. So I was stressing. I mean, for a couple months, I was stressing on where these deals were going to come from. But instead of hearing the other people saying, focus on network or put all this money into this, whatever it is, I focused on just building a good foundation and making the phone calls. And I think it's paid off pretty well. I mean, we talk about this as well. I think that I'm extremely profitable because everything I use, I mean, a lot of it's provided by the company, which really helps. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. A lot of things that other agents have to pay for in our marketplace, we don't, because the company has the resources for us. But off of the way that I generate business, it's just a phone. Yeah. So my expenses aren't there either. So having to be able to build a profitable and duplicatable business is just awesome to look back on.
At the end of the day, it's what you take home that counts. I mean, a lot of people
100%.
Start thinking about commission splits and talking about all this stuff. But when you look at it, it all comes down to the net. Because, there's times where you can go out there and get a bet. Obviously, there's plenty of people, everyone in town's offering you something better than what they think that I may be giving you. Right. But at the end of the day, it's like you start factoring in all the leads that I might be giving and the revenue that's coming from that, and you factor that back in, there's no chance that you can get a better
it's the value. I mean, I know that any agent in this company would say that. Mm-hmm. It's the value that you're getting is so far on top of what you would get anywhere else, in my opinion, that I know of, that, I mean, there's just not even a question. I've never even questioned the commission. Mm-hmm. I was one of these agents that came in and, I mean, started from the bottom and grinded through it. I mean, it's something that I never really thought about, because the value was so high here that, I mean, it's just, I come into work every day and I'm learning more, I'm getting more out of it.
Yeah. So it's going to be fun to see where we end up taking this, because I think it's going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that we're going to branch off and do other things together. So this is Kevin Mills. He's a fantastic agent, somebody that you need to continue to look out for. And if you see any opportunity to watch any videos that he may be doing, check him out. There's some great tips.
This is Brendon. Can I help you? I am. Who am I speaking with? I actually was trying to reach you. You had a property down here that was for sale, right? Okay, good. It what? Well, I know it had been on the market for a while and then had failed to sell. That's why I was calling when it came off the market. It looked like it had been with a different Century 21 for a while. You still want to get it sold though, right? Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, I understand you won't want to be on the market again and not get it sold. I don't blame you one bit. Where are you moving? Okay. Oh, you're in Ohio now. So who is in the home that is down here on that was for sale? Well, your husband's there. Okay. What are you going to be in Ohio for long term then? Did you move? Oh, okay. So now I know it was on the market for about 90 days. It sounds like you didn't get any offers. You got one offer. Okay. What happened with that? Okay. So you actually had it under contract and it fell through. Okay, got it. Is there anything, what was the agent telling you was keeping it from selling after 90 days and only getting one offer that didn't even get ratified? Did they give you any thoughts? Okay. Just not sure what was going on with it? Okay, so how are you going to get it sold now and I'm assuming your husband is trying to get back to Ohio with you? Okay, so yeah, put it on, try on your own for a while. You figure you can't do any worse, right? I understand. So let me ask you this. I mean, obviously you've got a net number that you've got to get. If we could show you 120, that's your walkaway number? Okay, that's what you're asking for it now. Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay, so you need to get 116 in your pocket. Okay, got it. And how much do you owe on the home? Okay, so you're looking right now. You got to have about $57,000 get moved. Everybody get moved back to Ohio and do what you need to do. After all said and done. Okay, got it. So 60,000 is the number you've got a net. And now you said you're doing it on your own. Put it on Zillow, put it on Trulia, put it on Craigslist. You're working with buyers agents if they bring you a buyer. What else are you doing in terms of marketing? Okay, that's it for now. All right. Have you heard what, or have you heard of myself and my team and what we do to sell homes just like yours? Actually, no. Every company is a little bit different. You were with a different Century 21, right? Oh, okay. And had you been listed on the? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Unless I was looking at something that was completely off, I thought you were the different C21. Okay, so well, what I'm going to do is I want to get a little bit of research done, and yeah, I'm going to do that, and I have. Oh, I'm sure you have, but the difference is I'm going to actually show you with results the difference from one agent to the next. Did you know there's over 3,500 agents in this market and most of them don't sell more than 2 or 3 properties? So I'm going to get you some information, show you exactly who you're talking to, so you can make a better decision this time when you get it back on the market. What email should I send that to? LYNN? What's the last part? 1376 at what? At Gmail. Okay, perfect. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and get you all my contact information, track record, some information on my marketing plan. Then I'm going to get some research done on your home and give you some thoughts on what needs to be done differently to be able to get you that net of the 60,000. What realistically is your time frame that you want to be able to get that home sold in now that it's been on the market for 73 days and hasn't sold? You want it sold when you put it on the market. Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this information over to you, get my homework done, and then I have got some time later this afternoon around 4:30 to call you back, or I can give you a call around 10 o'clock tomorrow. Which one of those works better for you? Okay. Okay. All right, no kidding. So what I'll do, you're going to be, when you're home tomorrow, is it best if I give you a call before you go to sleep, maybe like 8:30 a.m., 8:30, 8:45, before you get into bed and get rested? That's better in the middle of the day, right? Today is Tuesday, yeah, so I can give you a call early tomorrow morning when you get home. Okay. About what time? Okay, perfect. So I will give you a call then. I'm going to get all my homework done. Look for that information to come over through email. And again, my name's Brendon Payne, okay? And is this your cell phone? This is the best number to reach you? Okay, outstanding. I appreciate you giving me a call back, and we'll talk soon and get you taken care of, okay? Thanks. Bye-bye. So that one, just so you kind of know what that was an expired call that I didn't get a hold of, didn't leave a message, but the caller ID showed up with my cell phone on there, and she called back. So she said that she had already had 4 calls, and she called mine back. All the other ones that she had didn't go through, so people are calling from numbers that are blocked, so she couldn't get back through to them. I answered, of course, it's a normal expired script, but she actually still wants to sell, 100% wants to sell quickly, thought she'd already be sold, and came off the market, and now she's going to try for sale by owner. So went through kind of that process, set the phone appointment with her. She's already in Ohio. She's got some family members back here, but she is definitely wanting to get it sold. It's just at this point, it's kind of a typical FSBO with your FSBO objections, I imagine. She's willing to pay 3%, so we've just got to have a conversation on marketing and what to do to get back on the market. So hopefully we'll be able to have a great conversation with her and get her taken care of.
So here we are sitting with Brendon Payne, fantastic real estate agent, been on the team for a while, within the company for a while, and really excited to talk about his journey and how he's truly went from, not having a real estate license to becoming a great agent, becoming a top producing agent, then becoming an entrepreneur, and eventually becoming a business partner. Yep. So that's where we are. So why don't we just start off with how we connected? Because I know it's been a while. We've been together for a while, but when was that, and how did we even get to meet each other?
Yeah, so we first started talking probably about 11 years ago in late 2006, and I was in a transition where I was had just gotten through the classes of real estate, making a career change, coming out of the corporate world, and ended up going to a new agent seminar where we're doing a lot of those at the time, just kind of letting people know what you're about and what the company's about, and it ended up, we connected at one of those, and the rest was kind of history.
Yeah,
so that was
good.
the initial.
Yeah, so I know you came in, you didn't have a license, and you got here, you said 2006.
2006.
Lucky for you.
Yeah.
And you know what, let me say this. Actually lucky for you.
It was.
Because you didn't come in at the bottom and then see a crazy market. Yeah. You actually came in at the top of the crazy market and you saw nothing but a downturn. I know that sounds weird, like most people would rather come in and ride the wave up, but I have this opinion that one of the reasons why some of you all are successful is because you actually had to learn the business in order to survive while the market was going down. What could you add to that?
Yeah, in hindsight, it absolutely was. It was the best time to come in because the market wasn't helping any of us at the time. There were always deals. We're in a resort market, so there's always deals to be done, but the market was not helping us. When you think of a new agent, learning the skills that you have to learn to communicate, but then on top of it, it was like trying to try to price properties correctly in the market from 2008 through 2010 or 11 was brutal. But that forced me and everybody else that got in at that time to really figure out what skills do you need to be able to really serve the clients. So in hindsight, it was huge, and there was nobody that survived part-time in those years.
Yeah.
And even not fully committed.
Yeah, that's great. So right now you're still obviously a real estate agent, and I mentioned to the audience that you're also a partner. So what are you projected to do this year, real estate transaction wise?
Probably do around 160 transactions.
Okay, and talk to us a little bit more. Where else are you spending your time now?
Well, obviously in 2013, we branched out together and opened the first office in Charleston. And so I'm spending a lot of time in the Somerville office, and then we opened a second location in West Ashley. So a lot of time there, really just coaching the agents and trying to show them the process that we teach and that we coach so that they can go from a new licensee or somebody that might be stuck a little bit in their production, know they can do more, and showing them how to grow their business. So that's where a lot of time outside the personal production is spent.
So one of the things that I've always, I guess it's an opinion or it's a kind of something that I haven't really liked about the coaching industry. And not all coaches are great, not all coaches are bad, but one of the things about the coaching industry is a lot of times there's a bunch of coaches that haven't really walked the walk. Maybe they've read the books or they've studied under another coach, and they go out there and try to coach and develop other talent. And I see that sometimes they have a hard time doing that. You, on the other hand, are talent. You are a talented real estate professional that's actually walked the walk from new licensee to 150 plus transactions. What are some of the things that you think that you've learned during your journey as a real estate agent that is helping you go out there and develop and teach and coach other real estate agents to be successful like yourself?
Probably the two that stand out is that it is very process oriented. So there is a step-by-step process in every industry, and it's no different for real estate. So most people are not going to come in and just all of a sudden just become overnight successes because they have to put the time in learning the language of the business. So learning the language of the real estate business is absolutely imperative. And then the second part is they got to figure out, how am I going to actually talk to people? Because it doesn't do you any good if you know what to say, if you don't have a process to be able to go out and get in front of people. So whether that is things that you're doing, self-generating your leads like we do a lot in terms of prospecting, or getting connected with, maybe your company is giving you leads, you have to know where to get them and how to communicate with them. And then the third thing that's probably the biggest transition from agent to where I'm at now is the fact that every step of the way you have to continue to have your systems in place to scale. Because no matter where you're at in your business, 20 deals, 200 deals, 2,000 deals, you have to continue to learn how to do more business with the same 24 hours in a day. So if you don't know how to scale the business, or you don't have that support around you, then you get stuck.
Yeah.
No matter where your production is, you can get stuck.
Yeah, and I was going to mention that you said no matter where your production is, because I think a lot of times people think, well, if you're going to follow a process, then you must be talking about a new agent. But even if you're doing 20 deals or 25 transactions, for people that you're talking to like that you're helping them develop to get to the next level, what are some of the things that you have to work with them on?
Well, you usually at that 25 to 30 deals, that's where they're starting to feel comfortable that they're stabilized. So they know they're doing enough business where they're excited about it. But usually about that time is where they're tacked out. So they are literally working like crazy. And one of the transitions that we coach the agents on is, as you do more business, you actually get more specialized in what you're doing. So being able to show them in your day, where are you spending time that is not creating more business, and it's busy work, and helping them transition through, just having the confidence to know you're doing what you need to do every single day. Now maybe you need to make a step, and maybe you need to grow your business by, whether that's adding staff or systems or investing back into yourself.
Yeah.
And they have to understand that, once they see the confidence of the system works, then usually they are willing to make some investments that's when they take off.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've learned together is that in the beginning, an agent leverages themselves. Like they're the only thing they need to leverage.
Right.
Get out there, follow the process, do the work.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they start doing 20 or 30 deals. Then all of a sudden they've got to figure out, well, I've got to continue to leverage myself, but because I'm doing deals, I don't have as much time to spend actually creating deals. So then they have to now go to phase 2, which is leverage systems, so they can continue to leverage themselves. And then they leverage systems and they get more business. And now all of a sudden they're like, well, now I've got to leverage people.
Right.
So it goes with leveraging yourself to leveraging systems to leveraging people. And that's how you continue to scale.
Yeah.
And I think we've had those conversations in the past, and it's just kind of coming out, as I'm listening to you.
And I think a big part of that is, so I see a lot of people, they get that, they understand that, they're willing to invest. But when they make their investment in, say, adding staff or adding systems and stuff, the mistake that happens is they don't reinvest their time in generating new business.
There you go.
So if you are making an investment in whatever it is to get time back, if you don't reinvest your time in generating more, then it becomes an expense line. On your P&L, it's an expense line. If you reinvest the time, it's actually an investment, and you can see that there's a return.
Hello, this is Mitch Gainforth down here at Century 21, the Harrelson Group. I wanted to check in. I had sold a couple homes near Surfside Drive recently, and I was just wondering, when were you planning on making a move? Never. Well, that's good. It means you're enjoying it. Wow. I said, 50 years? Yeah, it doesn't sound like you're in a hurry to move, right? Yeah, and I appreciate you taking the time, and I hope you have a good day, okay? Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye.
How could you know about off-market properties?
So here we are sitting with Mitch Gainforth. Mitch and I have been working together for quite a long time. He's been a great team member, a great asset to the company, and I'd just love to talk with you a little bit, Mitch, and see how things are going. But let's start off with how long have we been together? How long have you been at the company?
It's going on 13 years.
13 years?
Yeah.
All right, so that's about 2014. And how did we connect in the first place? I can't recall how we even met each other. First of all, how old are you?
30, going on 33, almost 33.
So 13 years ago,
Yeah.
You're 20 years old.
20.
Okay, that's important information.
I'm 20.
You know, I just thought of that. It's like, wow, 13 years ago.
I know,
I was
right?
a lot younger too. So, so how did we even match up? I mean, how did we connect?
You know, I was delivering pizza. That was my job.
Yes.
Delivering pizza at Domino's Pizza on 501. Been doing that since high school. I was in college. And an acquaintance of mine knew a owner of a real estate company. I got my real estate license.
Okay.
And I asked him, I said, can I call your dad and join his company? And he said, call my dad. So I called his dad, and he actually told me to call you.
Wow.
Because I was a brand new agent. I knew nothing.
Yes.
So he said, call Greg Harrelson, because he is the guy who will train you from nothing to be a great agent.
And it's amazing how many times that has happened. There's been so many companies in town that people have went to, you know, see if they could hang their license, and they say, hey, no, you should just go to Greg Harrelson's office.
Yeah.
You know, it's just interesting, and you're an actual great example. Have you ever called him back to say thank you?
I've talked to him since then.
Yeah,
I did
really?
say thank you.
He's probably proud. He's probably like, well, you know, if it wasn't for me.
Listen, I'm the one who did it. Remember,
That's right.
I'm the one who brought you there.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your journey. So let's start with where you are now. What kind of production are you doing right now? Number of units, and maybe talk to us a little bit about how you got to where you are.
I'm doing a little over 100 deals a year.
Mm-hmm.
The last 3 years, I've been doing over 100 deals a year. How I got there, really, when I came to the company, I was training under another agent at the company, Brendon Payne.
Yeah.
So I worked under him for 2 or 3 years as an apprentice agent. Learned the ropes based on doing that and within the group, and then started making phone calls. And then I was working as an assistant as well, if you remember.
I do.
And within 6 months, I worked out of that. And then after 6 months of doing that, I didn't have to do any more paid, you know, no hourly wage or anything like that. I was just a full-time agent. And so I did my first 2 years under him as just a full-time agent. And then I moved, basically transitioned from him being, you know, my primary guy to you being my primary guy from there. So that was about 2 or 3 years in, and I went from 53 deals to, I think, 68 deals, and then I went from 68 deals to over 100 deals, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
Yeah, and buyers, sellers, listings. You know, what is your main focus? Maybe a few pillars that you typically work.
Right, sellers only. I mean, I talk to buyers every day, obviously, but I'm only really listing properties and working with sellers, representing them 100%. There are a couple people that I'll sell my own property, so I'm working the buyer and the seller. And then if I have a good friend of mine who's a COI, who's just somebody that I really know really well, in that case, I'll be the buyer's agent because they're only going to want to be with me. So, but pretty much if I sell 115 properties, 114 of those, I represent the seller. That's what it's going to look like at the end of the day.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. So you've got a great headline, right? And I think we've even used this on a video
so.
before. It's like from pizza delivery guy to 100 deal producer, right?
Right. And
I always, you know, think of that, and we'll probably always remember that headline. But it's something to be proud about. You know?
Think so.
And I think you really are an example of what so many people would love to have. And those people that might get out there and maybe they're not doing what they want to be doing in production, or even people that may see this and they're not doing what they would want to be doing in the type of work that they're doing. What are a few things that you could look back and say, this is what I did right? And then maybe give us something that you could say, that you said, this is what I did wrong. I eventually made it right, but this is some of the early mistakes that I made.
The one thing I could say I did right is I would call somebody. I would get held up in an objection. I would go to you and I would say, what do I say? You would say this. And what I did right is I actually called them back and I said it. Because those are the moments that I grew. And that's how I got from so quickly from no deals to 30 deals to 50 deals to 80 deals to over 100 deals, was simply by going past my fear, because it was fearful every single time. I did not want to say the question. I didn't want to ask for the mortgage balance. You know, I didn't want to ask why they were selling. I didn't want to ask what they wanted. You know, I didn't want to do that, but I went past my own fear and said, I'm going to do that. So it's just going to you, saying, what do I say? And then actually making the call and saying it. That was the best thing ever. I still do it to this day, we're on different things.
Yeah,
we're
it's
dealing,
totally different. It's a whole different level.
It's a whole different level. We might be talking about 100 listings in one shot, and I'm
That's
like, well,
right.
what do I say? Say this. So it doesn't matter, at the end of the day, what it is. It's always there's you. I can go to you. There's other people who I can go to, and I'd say as a beginner, go to the people who are doing a lot of deals, have that track record, ask what do I say, and then call the person back and say it. You will never lose doing that. You will win, win, win. The one thing I would say I did in the beginning, I started doing deals. I was making 20, 30 contacts a day, and I started doing deals. So I stopped at 20 or 30 contacts a day. If I would have, I look at it now, because now I make like 80 contacts a day. Bar none, minimum 80 contacts. A lot of days over 100 contacts a day. And I can tell you, if I had the discipline back then, I'd be doing 500, 600 deals right now without even thinking about it. So going back, the mistake I made was not making the commitment to the 60 contacts a day.
Not going all in.
Not going all in.
Yeah.
I'd have, so here, if you generate, you don't tolerate. So when I spent a lot of years frustrated trying to make listings happen where the person wasn't motivated, or they just didn't have the ability to sell, and I was trying to make something work that just would never work. But when you generate and you commit to all in, I'm going to do 60 contacts a day, you just end up with people who are like, yes, I want to sell. Yes, well, what do you need to know? Because I need to sell this property now, and the whole transaction is easier. Your life is easier. So I would say the two things is do what people say to say, go back and call them, and also make those contacts. Do 60 a day at the beginning. If you do that at the beginning of your career, you're going to skyrocket. It's just going to be amazing.
The first thing that you said that you did right, is you're following the system and you're coming and you're asking me questions. But what you really did right is you took action on what you learned. And I see that, me being more of the coach, the trainer, the person who's focusing on developing top producing real estate agents. As a coach, one of the most frustrating things that I can ever experience is when somebody comes up to me and says, hey, this is what I want to know, and ask me a question. And then I stop what I'm doing. I said, hey, this is the answer, and you could probably go this direction or this direction or this direction. And when you do that, they're going to say this and then say that, right? And then all of a sudden to find out that the person never took that information and did anything. So you have been a great example of what it's like to be coachable. And I think that's one of the things that people need if they really want to take it to the next level. Get in the right environment, but also be coachable.
Yeah.
And be okay. You seem to be comfortable with admitting there's some things that you don't know, and then finding a person who does, and then asking the question and taking action. And that's how you become so knowledgeable, is you admit what you don't know, then you go aggressively find the information, then you apply the information, and through that process, now you know.
Now you know, and now you grow.
And now you grow.
Now you
We're
grow.
good. Well, Mitch, that's great. Thank you so much, buddy.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hi there, it's Lori Sorensen with Century 21, the Harrelson Group in Myrtle. How are you? Good. I was calling to check in on you. How was your wedding? Was it? That's awesome. Are you all ready to come down and get your condo? Okay, so you're going to try to make a trip in January? Okay, awesome. Well, are you still getting the property I'm sending over? Okay, good. Am I on the right track for you?
Yeah, hey, Mr. Miller.
Okay, good. All right, Sam. Well, I just wanted to check in. I'll follow up with you maybe mid-December, see if y'all have firmed up any dates yet, so I can get you on my schedule for January. Okay. Well, listen, enjoy, the honeymoon and being a newlywed, and I'll talk to you in December, okay? All right, Sam. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
So we're sitting here now with Lori Sorensen. She's a fantastic real estate agent. I think we've been together for about 3 years.
Yes.
Right? Lori is a little bit more unique. She was a real estate professional already when we met in West Virginia. So it was about 3 years ago, but how did we actually connect?
So another agent in the office, Joe Lindstrand, she introduced us.
And how did you just cross paths with Jill? How did you even know Jill?
I've known Jill for about 10 years through our families. Our families have been connected for approximately 20 years, but I came into the family about 10 years ago.
Okay.
So we had been friends, and she encouraged me to get into real estate. I was a stay-at-home mom, just kind of looking to do something on the side to make a little extra money,
Yes.
if you will. And so I was in West Virginia, and my family decided to make the move back to Myrtle Beach, and she said that I should come to the company. She actually hired me, if you remember, and my license was sent here. And everyone's like, who's Lori Sorensen?
I was just going to bring that up because you just triggered that thought. I forgot all about that. Yeah. She basically, I remember her saying, oh, I've got a great agent for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, there's this agent walking around the office, got her license here. I'm like, who's that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the great agent for you. Okay, so
Yes.
you're already here.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, that worked out. Hopefully it worked out for both of us.
It did.
So what kind of business were you doing in the beginning, maybe in West Virginia, and where are you now? Tell us a little bit about the journey.
My first year in West Virginia, I closed about 11 transactions, which was amazing for me because I was just looking to, I think my goal was like 5 deals a year. I was like, just make a little bit of extra money and get out of the house. And this year, I'm hoping to close right at 50 transactions.
50 transactions. And you still have your children,
Yes.
and you still spending time with your children. And
young children.
Yes.
So young,
Two.
yes, 2 little girls. And so my part-time.
Did you ever think that you were going to be doing 50 deals at this stage? I mean, I'd imagine that you probably knew that you're capable, but you also are very committed as a wife and as a mother of your children. So I don't know that was necessarily your master plan this quickly, or was it?
No, it wasn't. I never looked at this like it was going to be a career or something that I would grow to love as I have, and that I would even be as successful as I've been this year. So,
well, how did you do it? How did you go from 11 transactions, then moving markets, coming down to Myrtle Beach? Because that was 11 in West Virginia. So when you started here, you were at 0.
Yes.
And you didn't really know probably too much about the real estate market of Myrtle Beach.
No.
Well, how did you get up and running so quickly and still maintain, your obligations at home?
I would say that building my database has really helped. I have a really large center of influence here as well. I've been here for about 10 years. So I've closed a lot of deals with friends and family this year as well. So just really building that database and nurturing it, that's been really important for me in my career here.
So out of the 50 transactions that you'll do this year, roughly what's the makeup of that, buyers versus sellers?
I would say like 95% buyers.
Yeah.
I've had a couple listings just from past clients and of course my friends and family here, but it's all buyers pretty much.
Now I know you get a lot of leads through the websites and the Real Geeks websites and whatnot. And one of the things that I've noticed, and you actually brought it to my attention a few times, not that you were bragging, but you just were showing me some things that you're doing. I noticed that you're very organized with your database. Your database is very clean. If something has a bad email, a bad telephone number, I don't know whether you delete it or not, but you seem to have, your database is actually a quality database. How does that help you?
I keep up with a lot of leads that I think most agents would probably throw away.
Okay.
So even leads that have bad numbers, I still follow up because I can tell that they're active. So to me, they might just not be ready to talk. But if they see my name appear in their email, then they'll remember me. And I actually did 2 deals this year with someone that I had a bad number for 2 years.
That's a great point. So you can see on the dashboard and you see people are active. You also know that they have a bad number, but the email must be good because they're getting the alerts and they're triggering back and searching through. So what you're doing is communicating them via email. And I think a lot of people forget that, that when buyers log into the website, sometimes they want to remain anonymous, right? Yet they want to get the benefits and the features of using our tools, but they are just not ready to be sold yet. At least that's what's in their mind. So they're giving us a good email. So you're just consistently doing that. Now, are you dripping on them? Do you have the template set up? How are you doing that? How do you organize that and execute?
So I set up a site or a search for them through our site, and also sometimes through Paragon I can tell where they're looking, and I'll email them occasionally just I've emailed asking if they still want to remain active on our site. I've gotten a lot of responses just kind of saying like, we haven't spoken, but I don't want to, if you're still looking and active, I don't want to kick you off our site. And they immediately respond to that just because.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so they almost, it kind of scares them into talking to me a little bit. But, and then I get a response, and even if that's all, I know that they're still active, they're reading the emails I'm sending. So I just kind of tailor them throughout the year. I'll wish them Merry Christmas. I've already started scheduling Thanksgiving emails. So on the 20th of November, I'll email a group of people just wishing them a happy Thanksgiving. And just, I think that really sticks with a lot of people. Yeah. So another agent within the office asked me if I could say one thing that helped me be successful this year. I firmly believe it's because I follow up with people that other people probably wouldn't.
That's
and
awesome.
I keep up with it.
Yeah, so you're going to get things that other agents don't get because you're going to go after other things that other agents are not going after.
Right.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. Good job for you. So this is Lori Sorensen. Obviously, she's a fantastic agent doing 50 transactions in her third year in a new market. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
It's Lori Widner with Century 21 Harrelson Group here in Myrtle Beach. How are ya? Doing well. You're headed this way, right? Okay. And you were interested in that lot there on 32nd Avenue? I know there's another one in that area there. I don't know the address right off, but I mean, I've looked at it. What are you looking to do with the lot? To build? Okay. Single family residence? Okay. A retirement home, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch, what was the second part? Okay. I just asked because, I mean, different areas have different zoning, so if it was going to be, a business, then I just want to make sure that you're, able to do what you want, to accomplish what you want. I need to check the zoning for this one, which I can do. Okay. Have you done a B&B before?
720 North Waccamaw Drive. Do you think that is second row?
North.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, Mayor. This is Joel, Century 21 in town.
I was just curious. It's always been one of my dreams to do one day. So, and I had a degree in hospitality tourism management. So we did a lot of studies on the bed and breakfasts, a lot of business cases and stuff that we did, reviewed them. So, all right. So what's your time frame for wanting to find a lot? Okay.
Just wanted to touch base with you.
And you want to be in that Atlantic Beach, North Myrtle Beach area?
Oh, you do? Where do you own?
Okay.
Myrtlewood.
Well, let me do a little bit of homework here and check the zoning for both of these, just to make sure that we're, you're able to build residential, and if you can do the bed and breakfast on the other one, and I can get back in touch with you. Is this the best number to reach you on?
Anything you need in the real estate world.
Okay. And then if you do find the perfect property, do you plan on paying cash or financing?
You have a great day. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And is there anything else that's important to you in the lot, other than the location and the zoning, as far as and what time? You said around 3 o'clock today.
Is this Brian?
Is it two?
Hey, this is Joel with Century 21 in town. How are you?
Going right into the rental season too.
Great. So I'm just reaching out to the homeowners in Oak Manor Estates. We've had a few sales there. Actually, 3 sales in the last 4 months. And they average right at 200.
All right, we'll get this worked up, and I will give you a call back as soon as I get the research on it and get something set up for you. Okay, Miss Beverly? Does that sound all right? Okay. And I'm going to text you my direct contact information. This is just an outgoing line at my office, so if you come across any questions, so you have that direct number as well. Okay. All right. Safe travels. We'll talk with.
So now we have Lori Widner here, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about her business and what she does with with the Real Geeks website and working with buyers. But first, you've been in real estate for how long now?
Just over a year.
Just over a year. So I think you got your license when 2016, but what month? Maybe October?
October, the end of October.
So only licensed for 1 year right now. So January of 2017 till December of 2017 will really be your first calendar month or year, right? Full calendar year.
Correct.
Okay. And what type of transactions are you doing? How many transactions will you do this year?
I'll probably close 45 transactions this year.
Okay. 45 transactions this year. Now, I'm really curious. Is that good or bad in your mind?
Well, I think there's
Stop. Everybody watching this knows that is phenomenal. But notice how she's still not really wanting to say that. But no, really, I'm just kidding with you because I know, you're fairly humble and you're always looking to do more and more and more, and probably your hardest critic is you. 45 transactions in the first year has been phenomenal. It's just fantastic. Now, out of those 45, how many of those have been buyers versus sellers? And you don't have to, it's not a perfect number, but just roughly.
90% have been buyer.
90% of them buyers. And where are the most of your, I know that you work Real Geeks very heavily. So one of the things that I wanted to kind of just, uncover in this conversation is share like the routine of, maybe the morning routine when you get in, you open up Real Geeks, you do what, and how are you getting this much business off of the buyer leads that are coming in? What is it about you that you would say that you're doing right and that's causing success?
I really believe it comes down to response time of how quickly it is. So it's not only your morning routine, it's just whenever you get an alert from Real Geeks, is just being on top of it because the prospect is engaged at that time. So if you can connect with them as soon as possible, you have a better chance of converting them, has been my experience.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like when let's just say that maybe you fumble and you're not able to respond in say 5 minutes, 4 minutes, or immediately. What do you see the difference being? Like what happens when those days when you're busy and you only respond in 15 minutes later versus like 2 minutes? Can you see a difference in what happens between those two examples?
You definitely can see a big difference and they're just. In that time, they may have been on other websites or even spoke to somebody else. So then they don't even remember what they just did if it's an hour later. So I think it's critical to get to them as soon as you can.
Yeah, or they may have talked to one or two other real estate agents, and that's if there's other real estate agents doing their job and following up. But I would imagine that 15, 20 minutes later, they're like, who are you again? And what website are you on? I'm not sure. I don't think that I actually was on your website. Is that the type of thing that you'll get?
Correct.
Right. So what about the people that they get on the website, you have a phone number, you call them, and they don't answer right away, so you don't get them right away. What is your strategy or follow-up strategy to make sure that you do get in contact with that person?
I love the double dial text. It works really well.
Tell us what that is so everyone will know.
So I'll call them from my cell phone often because that's the number I would like them to call me back on.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they don't answer, I'll try to call them from the office phone if I'm at the office on the outgoing line. And if they still don't answer, then I'll just follow up with a text message.
How do you think, from before when maybe you didn't do that to then you started using that technique, can you see a measurable result?
You definitely can see a difference with it. And I think people appreciate it too because they know that you're being persistent and that, hopefully that you'll be helping them the same way that you're responding to them.
Yeah, I would imagine a lot of agents, it's really important to hear what you just said. The consumer kind of likes it because they appreciate you being persistent. I think a lot of people have a fear of reaching out to their leads for fear that the community or the lead will feel like they're being pushy. But you used you said that they appreciate the persistence, and I think what's in the way of a lot of agents making calls is their fear of being perceived as pushy. But you don't feel that way.
I don't. I feel like I'm here to help them, and if I can find out what their needs are, then I can help them. Mm-hmm. So I just need to get that information to help them get to the next step, to help them get what they want.
Got it. So what do you think that you've done right in terms of growing your business? Because you went from 0 to 45 in a year, first year without having a license in the beginning. So what are some of the things that you look back and say, okay, I did this right and it probably helped me out?
Well, I've been told like I'm not really scared to ask questions, and we have a lot of great resources on our team, like very successful people, and I'll just ask them, and been grateful to get help from a lot of people, and just
So
to
you
keep going
leverage the
forward.
environment.
Yeah, I've
You've
just
taken the environment and leveraged it and say, hey, the environment's here, let me go ahead and ask instead of hiding out and hoping that you figure it out later on or figure it out a few years later.
and most people are happy. They're happy to help you.
Yeah.
So they've all been there, so they're happy to help, and just not be afraid to ask questions. And every day you're going to learn something.
Yeah.
And to just keep going forward.
What's one thing you think that you could do better going into next year and saying, I want to do more, because I'm sure you're going to have a bigger goal? You know, what is one thing you look back and say, gosh, if I do this one thing better, it can have a big impact on my growth for the following year?
I would say just quicker, like getting them set up into Real Geeks quicker. If it's not a Real Geeks lead, is getting them put into Real Geeks on an automated search, and just having that. It's a great tool because you can see when they're on, they're looking at things, you can interact with them. So I would say just getting that done quicker.
So say we're getting a lead through Zillow or social media, you're saying let's get them off those other platforms, put it into Real Geeks, so then you can use the intelligence that Real Geeks offers, their engagement and what they're clicking on, so you can kind of get them and view them and watch them. Is that what you're referring to?
Correct. I was saying getting that done quicker, I think would be very helpful.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing today. I'm sure the audience is going to appreciate it. Fantastic real estate professional, 45 deals her first year working buyers. Fantastic. Awesome.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. So I'm sitting here now with Jan Pitman, and Jan has been with the company for quite a long time. Actually, how long have you been with the company?
13 years now.
13 years, okay. So Jan and I have known each other for 13 years. She started off as a real estate agent and has really, had a nice career and continues to have a nice career. Started off as a real estate agent to top producer, and now she's one of my partners. So why don't you just kind of start off with telling everybody how we met and how we got together in the first place, and maybe a little bit about your journey.
Okay, great. So obviously you know that we moved here from New York about 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And I decided that I might like the idea of getting into real estate and selling some houses down here. So I saw a little blip in the paper and came to a seminar that you were heading up, had no idea who you were. So I'm pretty fortunate to be able to go to that meeting. And then afterwards, I asked for an interview with you and interviewed with you, and because I liked so much about what you had to say. And then I decided to go to real estate school and start with you. So it was kind of about a 1 month process from the time I actually met with you and thought, this guy's the real deal. Like, he shoots straight from the hip, which is, being a New Yorker, of course, that's what we do, you know. So I'm very excited about getting started in real estate. And I started in, I guess, December of 2000, I think it was December 2003, and then had my first sales in 2004.
Yeah.
So started, actually calling a lot of people for listings like we do, and ended up working with a lot of buyers over time, because I called to ask if they'd like to list their property, and they would be like, no, I'm not listing right now. And I'd say, how about selling then? Buying then. So they decided they'd want to buy. So I worked with a lot of buyers initially, and then you and I got into some project work where we, worked some projects of, builders the market had crashed and builders were going out of the business, and we were helping them go in and get their standing inventory sold, and then, move on to bigger and better things. So we helped a lot with that. And then we kind of decided to do some listing together and did some listing properties together. And in the meantime, I was, of course, started out doing, 30 or 40 sales a year and ended up doing 100 plus, fairly quickly. And just kind of had lots of conversations about what you were going to do. And once you kind of shared that you were looking to, grow your business, I asked how I could be part of that. The thing I remember about that so well is that I would say to you, okay, I know you're growing your business and I want to be part of that, so what can I do?
Yeah.
And I would meet with you and you would say, well, I don't know, what do you want to do? You need to tell me where you think you fit into this company. And I think that for me initially it was frustrating, but all of a sudden I realized that this is pretty empowering. I mean, you're saying to me, tell me what you want to do, where you think you fit into the company, create that position, and then I know that whatever you set your mind to, you're going to be great at. So whatever you decide, I'm all in. So for me, it was like, wow, I mean, this guy's, really given me a lot right here, a great opportunity. So from that point on, I started, pretty much recruiting agents and deciding that I really wanted to develop agents. That was my passion. I love listing property and I'm pretty successful at that, but I really wanted to share all that I had learned from you and, being in your company and all of that. So, that's kind of my story. It's been a journey,
And you've really said a lot. I remember, I don't remember that one particular seminar, but I remember that was the time when I was doing new agent seminars or career seminars. And I remember my conversation at that time was basically I would have a room of 20 people that were thinking about getting into real estate, and I would share with them all the reasons why people fail.
Right.
And instead of building up the industry, I was almost breaking it down as if, like, do you really want to be in this business? Because if you're coming here to get a license because you think you're going to have freedom of your schedule, you're probably the only people that have freedom of the schedule are typically the ones that are broke, especially in the beginning.
Right.
So you're going to have to put your time in. So I was almost like downplaying or almost anti-selling the industry. And the strategy at that time was to make sure that whoever I was going to be talking to in the future, they were realistic. They didn't have unrealistic expectations of I'm just going to get a license and all of a sudden I make all this money and I'm not going to have to do anything for it. So I think that's one of the reasons that we probably were attracted to each other, because you're a no BS person and I was not delivering any BS at that time.
No.
And also, I mean, we've done some podcasts in the past, or some videos in the past, talking about how you have been listing, and even still now, how many listings do you average taking right now?
Right now,
in a month.
Right now, about 22 to 23, something like that.
So I mean, so you're a pretty powerful listing agent, and you and I have worked together kind of as partnering, and we have databases together, and we share those leads and whatnot. And you surely take a good portion of them and convert them. So now you've went from agent to, or actually non-licensee to licensee to agent, top producer. Now you're my partner, and we look at talking about doing things more from an entrepreneurial perspective. You're running Century 21 Barefoot, really. You're basically handling that office. What are you up to now? I know that you're kind of taking a lead and also developing talent and helping people. So what do you like? What do you see in the whole coaching arena in what you're doing?
I think the most rewarding thing for me is the fact that you can watch somebody come in that knows nothing about real estate and actually develop them into very successful people.
Yeah.
I think that, being the type of person I am that really likes to help people and cares about where they're coming from. I mean, when you hire an agent, they're either coming from another career or they have a family support or whatever. You want to make sure they get up and running as quickly as possible, because I feel responsible for the fact that I've told them that we can make them whatever they choose to be, I think that the best part is just watching people blossom, from the time that they start and they really know nothing. Or even agents we've got that have come in and been doing 5 or 8 deals a year, and now they're doing 25 deals a year, And just watching that growth is phenomenal. I love it,
Yeah, I know. I think you share kind of one of my beliefs, and that is, when you look at an agent and say, I won't be responsible. I won't take responsibility for your successes, but I will take responsibility in your failures. In other words, we've got to provide as much as we can to the agents, try to influence them to have the right schedules, to engage in the right activities, and make sure that they're practicing their skills. But at the end of the day, they're the ones that are doing the work. They're the ones that are crossing that line victorious. And I don't try to take credit, and I know you don't try to take credit, but man, it sure does pain me when somebody fails and they're on our watch.
It does, but quite honestly, in my mind, I mean, I feel like I do everything that I can to help them along, and we have all the tools. I mean, we're the largest producing company in the area. We've got the highest per inch of production of anybody in the country even, so we're doing something right. But there's only so much that you can do. So when I hire people, I have that conversation, about motivation and things like that. But also, we have all of these tools. All you need to do is take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Just show up and do what we know works. Don't try to reinvent the wheel.
It's pretty simple, actually.
It's pretty simple. It's the easiest business I've ever been in. Yeah. Just come to work and show up and do what we do. It's not very hard. I mean, where else can you go and make this kind of money? I mean, a lot of us are making money as doctors and attorneys and all that are making just by showing up in the morning and making contacts for 3 hours a day. I mean, it's not very hard as long as you have the right support behind you, the right,
So I agree. It's not that hard. So why don't more people succeed?
They don't succeed because they they don't want to commit to a schedule. You know, it's really that I hire people who we have this conversation, and then all of a sudden they get into the business, and then they're like, well, I mean, I've been here 30 days, this isn't working.
Yeah.
Okay, so of the 30 days that you've been here, how many have you actually shown up? Because from the day I interviewed till to today, I've reached out to you about 5 times, and I haven't seen you in this office one time.
Yeah.
So, you know, what are you putting in? I don't see you putting in anything. So if you don't take advantage of the tools, how can I possibly help you?
You know, what was flashing through my mind is I bet you that, I mean, you take something like a McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody's working at McDonald's, they're making $9, $10, $11 an hour, whatever their pay would be.
Right.
They get put on the schedule for, 20 days, 30 days, that particular month. The shifts are 8 hours or 7 hours, whatever they may be. I bet you they show up the days they're supposed to show up, and they show up at the time that they're supposed to show up, and they're only making $10 an hour. But unfortunately, for some reason, real estate agents don't necessarily show up at the same time, every single day. They don't treat it quite like a job, but those that do, we have found, do very, very well, and usually meet some sort of top producer status fairly quickly.
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jan. I really appreciate it. It's been a joy to actually go through this journey with you. And the cool thing is I think we're kind of in that transitioning phase where we're getting ready to start a whole brand new journey.
Right.
And we never know. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like in the future, but I think both of us are confident that we'll make it look however we want. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about that situation. First of all, who are you calling?
This is Bold Leads.
These are bold leads.
Yep.
Okay, good. So they're bold seller leads.
Yep.
From Home Valuation Tools. And what did that particular person say?
She actually sold. Windsor Plantation's where she moved to, so she sold where she was, relocated here locally.
Has she already purchased locally?
Yep, already purchased.
So she sold wherever she was. She's already purchased locally. And does she need any services right now at the moment?
Doesn't need anything right now.
Okay. So what we have right here is we have somebody that we captured as a lead. They have actually already done a transaction through another agent, so there's no opportunity right there. Did you get the email address?
Yep, confirmed the email as well as updated the
Got it. So
section she lives in.
So we've got their email address. Now what are you going to do with that email address?
Input it into InfusionSoft. That way we can keep her updated as far as what's sold.
Okay. Where did she buy?
Windsor Plantation.
Okay, so she bought in Windsor Plantation. That's a housing community, right? So one of the things you want to do, in addition to putting in InfusionSoft, you want to immediately after prospecting session, you want to go ahead, get into the Real Geeks, enter her into the Real Geeks, and save her under a seller, tag her as a seller, save her as on a sold search for Windsor Plantation to make sure that she gets updated every month on all the sales that are taking place in the community, as well as making sure that she gets a monthly market report from Real Geeks. And then the plan will be to have her getting dripped on in Real Geeks with sold information on a monthly basis, have her InfusionSoft running on on an SLD campaign in InfusionSoft that will nurture her for about 4 or 5 years. And between those two things, Real Geeks and InfusionSoft, we're hoping to win her over, so when she sells in 5 or 6 years, we're her go-to real estate agent. So the main thing for you right now is make sure that you don't skip the process of getting them into Real Geeks and saving them as a sold search for them as a seller for Windsor Plantation.
Amen.
Okay?
Got it.
I get a lot of people asking me about coaching, and just to make sure the audience knows and those that are out there, I actually think I own a coaching company more than I think I own a real estate company.
Right.
Because my passion is really developing talent. So what I've done is I've looked at some other coaching companies, like a Mike Ferry, for instance. Mike Ferry to me is dear to my heart because I've been involved for so long with him, and still right now he coaches me. But I look at his coaching structure and I say, you know what, if his coaching company was ever a real estate company, boy, it would be a powerful real estate company. So then I said that, and at the same token saying, well, if my real estate company was a great coaching company, it would also be a great real estate company, right? Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm focusing on making sure that we have coaching programs for any type of agent at whatever level they may be. So yes, I'm in the room with them while they're generating business, and I'm coaching kind of on demand by listening to what they need. But then every Tuesday at 10:45, I actually do a coaching call. So a lot of companies still get together in-house and they have a coaching meeting, everyone gets together. I've chosen not to do it that way. I don't think it's that efficient. I don't like having agents to have to drive for 30 minutes to have an hour-long meeting, and then they have to drive another 30 minutes to get to where they're going. It's like 2 hours out of the day.
It's a waste of time.
I feel like it is, right? You know, some people may argue or debate that, but I value their time. I don't think my agents make money by looking through a windshield, so I want to minimize the amount of time that they have to look through the windshield. And one way of doing that is doing the call over the telephone line, over a conference line. So no matter where they are, I mean, there will be agents that'll be driving to an appointment and know that they're going to pull over and they're going to listen to the coaching call. Some of them may be listening to the coaching call while they're driving to their appointment.
Sure.
And so I found by delivering my coaching over the phone, I actually impact more agents because more people attend and hear the message. So I do that. Okay, as you know, a lot of the times I'm coming to the conference call with notes that I generate either the day of or maybe a couple days prior to having these coaching calls with you. And typically when I generate notes, I'm gathering my ideas from conversations that I'm overhearing you all as agents making, or maybe I'm getting bombarded with questions from you all and I'm seeing a theme, like the same questions are coming up. Maybe you ask in a different manner, but for the most part the same questions are coming up. So I say, okay, well, if enough of you are asking that question, then maybe this is something that I need to dive into and kind of give you some training on or some coaching tips on. So this is the time of the year where we kind of know this is always going to come up this time of the year, and that is the people, whether they be usually they're sellers that are talking about waiting till after the holidays. So I just wanted to kind of address the conversations that you need to be prepared for between now. It really takes place, especially after Halloween. It's going to really kick in. But I know it's already going on right now that people are probably saying things like, yeah, I'm just going to wait to sell after the holidays, or I'm going to wait and put it on the market during the selling season. When is the selling season? And you know, I'll just kind of give you some thoughts and some tips that you might be able to draw from out of this card and kind of use it. But when somebody says, well, you know, no one really buys during the holidays, I say, wow, you know, where did you get that information? Like the perfect question in my mind is like, wow, yeah, that's interesting. Where did you get that information? Now, as soon as somebody says, well, you know, no one really buys, or I'm just going to wait till the holidays, and I say something like, wow, where did you get that information? The way that my tonality and my inflection in the way that I ask the question makes them question whether or not their statement was valid. And so now all of a sudden they're going to be very careful at how they answer that. Usually they're going to say something back like this. They're going to say something like, well, I mean, do properties sell in the off season? See, the way that I address their concern, the way I address their statement, I ask them a question. I put them on the spot to convince me that actually nothing goes on during the holidays or the off season, as they may call it. Well, as soon as I make them be responsible, as soon as I make them own their own statement, you'll see how they'll start to back off on that statement. See, they were saying to me, well, you know, like it's obvious nothing happens over the holidays. Well, when I say, wow, where did you get that information? Then all of a sudden what appeared to be so obvious to them is no longer so obvious. So they better listen at this point. That's the kind of the process. Like the first thing that I would say is I would ask them a question. So don't challenge them. Don't go immediately into a conversation of trying to convince them that they're wrong. Go in immediately to a spot where you ask them a question which requires them to take ownership in their statement. And when they have to take ownership and they're responsible for what they say, all of a sudden the tune kind of changes. So that's step number one. So I want to go over some things like this. You got to understand, holidays are nothing more than a distraction to people who are thinking about selling. Now, when I say that, listen, holidays are not a distraction in the sense of I love holidays and I want to celebrate the holidays and I support all of us celebrating holidays, taking time for our family. But in the context of doing business, holidays can be a distraction. I mean, people are going to go to a holiday party and they're going to wake up late the next morning. They're not going to do the things that they intended to do because the party was a distraction. Should they have went to the party? Absolutely. But it is a distraction. So I just want you to understand, and I want you to embed this in your own mind, that it's not about things sell or things don't sell. It's just at this time more people are distracted and they use holidays as an excuse to kind of procrastinate and delay. It's not something that they're using because they don't want to do something. It's used as a distraction so they can just justify their procrastination. And if you'll get this in your head, then you'll be less likely to buy into what these people are saying. You'll be more likely to listen to what they're saying, hear and identify their true motivation, and then help them avoid the distractions and navigate and create a strategy on how to accomplish what they want to accomplish in the time they want to accomplish it, and work around the holiday festivities or obligations that they may have. So again, you're going to hear things like, I'm going to wait till after the holiday. My notes are here, no one buys around the holidays. People will say that. There are no buyers right now. I don't want to have to show around the holidays. You know, all of these things are variations of what you're going to hear. Now, when somebody says, well, you know what, it's really not the selling season. And I'm saying, well, that's interesting. It's really interesting. After I might say, where did you hear that? Another thought is, well, you know, I would say, unfortunately, a lot of real estate agents make mistakes when talking about the seasonality of a market. A lot of real estate agents, you know, they haven't done their homework. Maybe they don't market properties properly. They don't have a lot of information on how to market properties properly. So what they think of is they think there's selling seasons and there's seasons that there's no one selling. The reality is people are buying all year round. Now, I will admit things do change during the different seasons, but they don't change from on off. They change in the form of who, not on off. Who are the buyers? See, in the winter, the buyers, especially in the in our market, the buyers are people like snowbirds. They're people like retirees. In the spring, they're people like golfers. In the summer, they're people like younger families, because younger families want to relocate during the summer because of the schools. If they're going to transition a kid from one school district to another school district or state to state, they do that over the summer. So it's not that sales are on or off based on a season. It's who we sell to change based on the season. And a strong real estate agent should be able to communicate with a seller and say, hey, no, things are selling. As a matter of fact, we know exactly how to market and who to market to during the different seasons that give our sellers an advantage when it comes to the competition and being able to sell and get a good price, you know, during the holiday season or whatever season you may be talking about. Whenever you say to somebody, oh, wait, no, it's not that there's a good season or a bad season. There's just different seasons, and the buyer type, the profile of the likely buyer changes. Whenever you say that, unless you're dealing they've talked to somebody else that's heard me say that, I can assure you your competition is not saying that, period. The competition doesn't even know that conversation. So when you say that to somebody, they're going to step back and they're going to be like, wow, that's interesting. Wow, I've never heard that. So you can imagine somebody sitting here saying, well, you know, I'm going to wait till after the holidays and nothing really sells during the holiday season. And I say, wow, where'd you get that information? Well, you know, it's kind of the dead time of the year. This season is not when buy. Well, you know, it's interesting what we found throughout the years through marketing our properties is that it's not a matter of whether properties sell or don't sell. It's a matter of who are we selling to. And a good real estate agent like myself that knows how to market the property understands who the likely candidates are, the types of buyers, and we can gear our marketing towards finding that buyer for you. How does that sound? Wow, okay. So you really think there's a chance of selling? No, I know there's a chance of selling. I mean, there's many advantages to actually selling during the holidays. So I'll talk about that now and share with you what are some of the advantages. Well, listen. There's the seller's competition is lower during the holidays, period. See, every real estate agent in the market is dealing with people that are saying we're going to wait till after the holidays. We, as agents, will probably have conversations with people that will tell us that, and we will convert many of them to doing business with us now. But the other agents that are not following these types of dialogues and scripts, they're not going to convert them, which means the number of listings that come on over the next 90 days in the market is going to be less, not necessarily more. New listings to the market will be trending down. If new listings to the market trend down and buyers still are actually here buying, then the inventory levels will trend down. Now, I don't say that that's a long-term trend. It's just a trend that will happen because of the seasons, because of the holiday season. So as the inventory is trending down, what that equates to is less supply. There's still buyer demand, which means that the sellers have less competition for the buyers that are here. See, in the summer, they've got more competition. The builders, when do the builders like to start building? They like to start building around November so they can have finished product by March, and so they can be ready for, for people, for the influx of buyers that come in during that season. But as the influx of buyers come in, what comes with it? The influx of supply, more sellers, more property, so there's more competition. And the more competition there is, it's likely you'll get a lesser price and a longer sell time. So there's less competition for the buyer right now because there's less properties on the market. The other thing that you want to talk about, an advantage of being on the market during the holiday season, is buyers. They're motivated during the holiday season. So in the summer, let's just assume in the summer, you had 10 it took 20 buyers or 20 showings, and that's just a hypothetical. It took 20 showings to actually sell a property. Well, it's because a lot of those showings and a lot of the people that are looking at property are borderline qualifying or maybe unqualified, but they're just out of school. They want to go look at properties because they are thinking about making a move, but they can't do a deal. But because of the clientele that we're dealing with, which is usually a more mature clientele, maybe they have a little bit more net worth, their finances are a little bit more straight. I mean, these are retirees and snowbirds and things like that. That type of clientele, usually their financials are a little bit stronger, so it takes less buyers to actually do deals. You'll have, it may take less showings to get an offer. Why is it less showings to get an offer? Because there may be a few less buyers, but the buyers are more motivated. Now, how do we know that buyers are more motivated? Well, one thing that we know is this. If people are going to window shop, then they're window shopping at the mall, at the outlet malls. That's where they're doing their window shopping. They're window shopping because they're thinking about buying things for the holiday season. They don't window shop during the holiday season for houses. They don't have enough time to do that. So the buyers that are in the market looking at houses, they typically don't necessarily want to buy, they need to buy. They have a need that they're trying to fill, so they have to buy. So anytime you get a buyer calling this time of the year, especially during the holidays, you got to take them very seriously, because what buyer is going to call you and tell you that they want to look at property after 2 days after Thanksgiving? What buyer is going to do that? That's not a window shopper. It's not a tire kicker. That's somebody that may have just sold their property up north. They're looking to move down south, and they're doing a 1031 exchange, and they have to identify a property. That's somebody who's looking for a property to buy because the accountant told them they needed to purchase another property for tax purposes. You all have been around me long enough to know that I'm I have got to buy a property, get me a property, and I need to close it this year. That would have been for tax purposes. So if I'm snooping around one of your properties and it's during the holiday season and I'm saying I need to close this year, guess what? I'm motivated. So guess what I might do? I might not haggle over $1,000 to $2,000 or $5,000 on a purchase price if I know that by doing that transaction is going to save me $15,000 or $20,000 on taxes, because the net gain would be advantageous for me. There's buyers out there that are like that. There's people that are job transfers and they're going to start January 1st and they need to come in and take care of this during the holidays. You see, there's many, many reasons why buyers need to buy during the holidays. So if I'm a seller, I want to be on the market when there's the fewest amount of properties as well as the highest quality of buyers in the marketplace. So these are just reasons why you want to be on the market right now. You don't want to hold the property off the market. Now, imagine this. It's 2 weeks before Christmas. You got family starting to come in, or you're preparing for family. You got a lot of downtime. You know, everyone's on their cell phones and their laptops and their iPads, and they're looking on the what? The internet. You know what one of the most popular things to do during the holidays? Search real estate on the internet. Internet searches for real estate surge during the holidays. We'll actually see a surge in traffic around the holidays because people have so much downtime. They're just browsing, they're searching on real estate. This is a time where you can get massive exposure for your listings. Now, the person who may be searching and browsing, a lot of that extra traffic that we'll see may just be searching and browsing, but these are opportunities to capture leads during the holidays that may turn out to be buyer transactions in the following 2 to 3 months. So it might be first quarter business that you actually captured and were able to sell that property because you captured the attention and exposed that property during the holiday season. So, you know, now there's that third layer of advantage. You got less competition, your buyers are more motivated, and there's more eyeballs on your property. And the more people that see the property will mean more people will show the property or look at the property, which means you've got a greater chance of getting offers. And the more offers you get, the greater chance of selling the property at a higher price. Like, everyone needs to be on the market right now. Now, the good thing is everyone's not. And because everyone's not going to follow this coaching and this information is exactly why you need to do your job and make sure that if you're identifying people that truly have a need and a desire to get the property sold, but they're making the mistake by assuming nothing's going to happen during the holidays, your job is to serve them and serve them well by giving them this information and sharing with them the advantages of making a move now, versus holding off until everyone else does and the market gets flooded with inventory. The internet searches go down because now everyone's busy with work again, doing their doing whatever business that they may be in. They're at the soccer matches and the soccer games and the tennis matches and the football games and all that other stuff that's going on. They're distracted by all that, right? So these are just talking tips. Now, they're going to say, yes, but I don't really want to show the property during the holidays. No problem. You know what we can do once we get the property on the market, we can sit down and we can talk about blockout dates. Use the term blockout dates. What's a blockout date? Well, we just sit down, and any dates that you don't want to show the property because you're having a dinner, or maybe they're 2 days before the dinner and 2 days after, then we can just block it out. We'll put hold, don't show. We'll put no showings during those dates. Now, I understand that somebody has a concern that maybe they don't want to show during the holidays, but it's interesting when you go and ask these people, well, what dates would you like me to put in the computer to block out? Well, no, we don't have to do that. I'll let you know if there's any other time. It's all just a distraction. They say things, well, I don't want to show it over the holidays, but then you say, well, when do you want to make sure we don't show it over the holidays? They'll say, I'll get back to you, and they never get back to us, and then we call them the week of Christmas, and they're like, yeah, okay, no problem. As long as they don't mind that, we've got some decorations. No, as a matter of fact, the fact that you have decorations makes the house feel better. That's like the ultimate staging. See, these are little things that people are going to say. I know you hear these things. Let them know that the house looks better when there's decorations. And of course, what if it sells and then, I have to move out, during December? And our plans are to have the grandkids are coming here from New Jersey, and my daughter's coming up from Florida, and we've got this big old plan. No problem. The great thing about selling during the holidays is I represent you, and I will be able to, or I'll do my best to make sure that part of the negotiation, not only are we negotiating price, but we'll make sure that we pay attention to the details like closing dates. And if we need to move the closing date a little bit further, how about let's control the buyer by putting that buyer under contract with us, and then we'll negotiate a longer a closing date to make sure that you can have your holiday festivities at your home just like you planned. But then when we come out of the holiday season and a couple weeks after, you're ready to close, and now you're done. So these are like little objections that people will have. Well, I don't want to close during the holidays. Okay, well, we'll just negotiate a different closing date. Well, I don't want to show it during the holidays. Okay, we'll sit down and talk about blockout dates. Well, nothing's selling. Well, no, it's not that it's a nothing. It's a yes or no, are things selling? Or do things sell or do they not sell? It's a matter of who are we selling to. See, these are all little sound bites, little tips that when they say these things, you need to be using these. I hope that you'll actually listen to this because I know we've got it recorded over and over again so you can pull out these little scripts. I was doing a little bit of research because sometimes when I'm doing a topic like this, I'll also do some research on Google to see if there's any things that I haven't discovered or I haven't thought of. And I found a stat from Redfin, and Redfin is a real estate company across the country. They're not here yet. It's just a matter of time when they get here. But Redfin has done some research, and here's what they found out. They did a study that homes listed from December 31st through March 21st had a 9% greater chance of selling within 6 months than homes that were put on the market between March 22nd and June 21st. Interesting stat. Let me repeat that. Homes listed between December 31st and March 21st had a 9% greater chance of selling within the 6-month time frame than homes put on the market between March 22nd and June 21st. And second stat is this. Between December 31st and March 21st, those homes had a 10% greater chance of selling at or near their asking price versus listings between June 22nd and September 20th. Like, that's totally contradictory to what people think. But this is a statistic that backs up things that we've been saying for years and years. The challenge is that we may say it amongst each other in these conversations, but you have the duty to educate the consumer of this information so not only can you grow your business, but way more important than you is so you can help them accomplish their goals. We got to remember, we've got to validate our stories. We got to figure out what's the right thing to do, and then we've got to share that with the consumer because we're really here to not sell the consumer. We're here to serve the consumer, and we've always got to understand that serving them sometimes comes in the form of educating them and influencing them to do things that they didn't think they should do, but after hearing this information, they're actually compelled to do it. And see, that's where you then bring in the value, and they say, well, thank you so much for explaining this to me because no one's ever explained this to me. The last agent said, well, nothing really sells during the holidays and told me to wait till the spring. Let me tell you, that's what agents are going to be saying. So you're going to have, when you say this, be prepared, people are going to say the opposite. And you say, you know what, great. It's interesting. I say this, they say the opposite. They make this many sales, we make this many sales. That sounds opposite too. It's like they say that and they get that. We say this and our sellers get this. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. There's a reason why we're making these sales. It's because we're educating ourselves and the consumers on the market and we're taking action. So speaking of action, some actions that you need to take beyond just understanding this information, some actions you need to take is you've got to focus on what is the date? It's the middle of October. So we've got, I don't know what that is, 45 days until the new year. Is that right? Holy smoke. Wow. I just got distracted. I started thinking, I got to get this and I got to get that and I got to do this. We got to have a party. No, we're not going to have a party. But, well, that's debatable. I'm sure it'll be an argument, just like every year. So, but the bottom line is this, is that we've got a little bit more time to still generate business for this calendar year. And so you want to focus on two things. Number one, you want to focus on moving motivated sellers into putting their properties on the market. Let's do it now so we can help them and be exposed to all the advantages that we just discussed. Now, how are we going to do this? We are going to do this by really making sure we're committed to making our contacts for the next 45 days. I understand there's going to be holidays, so just hear me out. It's 45 days, and then whatever the holidays are, they are. So technically, we don't have 45 days left in the year to make prospecting contacts. But we all need to go out there and look at our calendar, mark off when you're going to be out of town, figure out how many days you have to work for the rest of the year, and then set a contact goal for each one of those days. So let's just assume that you have, around around 28 days, working days left in the year. Well, what is your goal each and every day for the number of contacts that you're going to make? That's an action that you need to take from this call. You need to take the action of setting a goal and focusing on making those contacts, reaching that daily contact goal, and having these quality conversations during every contact. Because what's going to happen, you're going to educate some people that are going to say, I still want to wait. Well, what did you do? You just identified first quarter business. You're going to also educate people that say, wow, I never thought about that. Let's do it now. So you're going to get today business and you're going to identify first quarter business. And that's what the next 45 days is about. The next 45 days is about generating momentum. And anytime you generate momentum, there will be small victories along the way called listings that you'll take now. But more importantly, you'll have great momentum going into the first quarter. So January is not a dead month. We want January to be that month where, gosh, all these people are saying, okay, let's go ahead and get it on the market right now. I just got back in town. The other thing that you want to do is you want to focus on follow-up. Follow-up is critical. You want to really, when you're making your contacts, you want to go through your databases, your seller databases, that you've been building for years. These are the types of people that you should really be calling right now. I would be calling the expires and the FSBOs and all the things that you call during the, during your normal routine. But pay extra special attention to your database right now, because the last thing you want to do is ignore your database, because if you ignore your database in the last quarter of the year, they're going to ignore you in the next year. This is the time for you to actually be in communication and remind them that you're in business, that you're committed to them, that you're working to serve them, that you want to earn their business. So in the first quarter, when they start thinking about say the first of the year, they start thinking about all the things that they want to accomplish. Like, I want to list my property, I want to sell my property, I want to, lose weight, all the things that they're thinking that they want to accomplish. When they come down to their business and their real estate, you want to be in their minds. And you do that by getting into communication with them right now. So more contacts, focusing on how many days you got to work, what is your contact goal per day, and hitting those goals. Focusing on follow-up. The next thing is, I'm going to start, somebody reached out to me, another company out of Las Vegas, reached out to me yesterday via text and says, hey, when are you all going to do that prospecting challenge again? We're ready to go. We want to do this again. Well, it's a good friend of mine, and I'm sure he's thinking the same thing. Now's the time to generate momentum. So I'm going to start another prospecting challenge. It's going to start on Monday. It's going to carry through the, I'll kind of look at how many days we really have left with the year. Counting out taking out the holidays, I'll figure out exactly when the ending time will be. But we're going to have a prospecting challenge for probably the next 30 days. So if you want to be involved, text me, email, let me know that you want to be on a team, and I'll put this together. I can just tell you right now, some of you probably are on a team and you don't even know about it. And I'll let you know about that. But I welcome anybody that wants to be involved, and it will start Monday. So get your head straight, get your minds wrapped around this, because Monday's going to be the kickoff day, and I've already told the other people. The other thing that you want to do is you really want to focus on buyers, okay? The buyers that you're working, if you're working a lot of buyers, what you really want to do, just like we're talking about going out there and making all this communication or having these conversations to get listings, you've got to call as many buyers as you can. If you're not prospecting for listings and you're working with buyers, what you want to do is the same exact thing. Get in that prospecting challenge. Make these commitments to how many contacts you're going to make per day, how many days you're going to work for the rest of the year. Because though you will do the same, if you'll go out there and focus on generating momentum for the next couple of weeks, you'll trip up and find some today business that'll help you grow immediately. But more importantly, you need to be in communication with these buyers so you know when in the first quarter or the second quarter or the third quarter that they're planning on doing their transaction. I know you've got people set up to call them in 2 months and 1 month. No, call them all right now, because their plans may have changed. And when you say they're thinking about buying in 90 days, that might be 60 days. And if you don't call them for 90 days, you may call them and find that they already bought. So things change very rapidly in our society. So get on the phone right now, make these calls, and then update the calendars that you have them in when it comes to follow-up. Again, you're going to trip up and find today business just because you're applying this action. But what I'm really wanting you to do is I want you to prevent losses by having the wrong follow-up times, set up in our CRM. So focus on that. Other than that, I just want you to understand that there's a multiple of reasons. There's so many reasons why people should do business in and around the holidays. And just understand, as we close this out, just understand that the holidays is a distraction. It's not an obstacle. It's not a condition. It's not an objection. It's a distraction when they're telling you that. It's just like, hey, I'm distracted. I got a lot on my plate. And then and because it's a distraction, they say that, then what they're making it is they're making it a lesser of a priority. And of course they're going to make it a lesser of a priority if there's some other real estate agent telling them, oh yeah, nothing sells during the holidays. See, it's logical for them to make it a lesser priority if somebody's telling it doesn't even matter if you're on the market. But then all of a sudden they hear your information. Now all of a sudden that priority goes from the least priority to high priority, and now they move and take action. That's your job. If you're here to truly seek the consumer or serve the consumer, you serve the consumer by contacting them and then delivering powerful information and then not being attached. If there's anything I can do to help and further you along in this conversation, text me, email me. We will be sending this out to the company for for you all to hear again and again through audio. Again, let me know if I can help you out. Talk to you soon. On top of that, we have new agent programs that they come in and they get coached on. If they're doing mid-level production and they want to grow, then we have other coaching programs that are designed to stimulate momentum and get them to the next level very quickly.
So these are like programs, kind of like boot camp type
They're
stuff?
kind of like boot camps.
Right.
Yeah, and a few of them are conducted in classrooms, depending on, again, which one it is. And some of them, like one of the boot camps that's been real popular lately, is how to actually use data to convert appointments into listings. So it's like, what data do you need? What market data do you need to pull? What data do you need to pull on your bring about your company, about yourself, about your competition? It's how to actually pull data, interpret data, and present data. So that an example that boot camp may be 4 weeks. It may be 2 45-minute sessions over a conference line each week for 4 consecutive weeks. My CFO, Eric, actually trains them that because he's a data head, right?
So he's a data head. So you use other people within your team to help you coach and do training as well. It's not all you, but you are doing
not
a
all
lot
the time.
You are very hands-on though when it comes to the coaching and training. Though.
I'm not the best at everything.
Sure.
Okay.
None of us are.
Yeah, but one thing that I will pat myself on the back is when I recognize that I have talent, then I'm going to utilize that talent. And a lot of times that talent's not me. And the CFO is so good at really understanding how to pull data and interpret data. And then maybe him and I may work on how to present the data.
Sure.
But he'll do that. So that's an example of boot camps. We have buyer boot camps, listing boot camps, all of that going on all the time. You can see, there's a calendar that you can see that'll map out all the boot camps and training schedules for the entire year. It's already planned out. It's already outlined. We already have that. We're not just fly by night, like, oh, I need to get on the phone and talk, and we just start randomly talking. It's very planned out.
Do you do any kind of like role play before that?
Right now, we've got a group of individuals that are committed to role playing every week. So I will show up on one of the role play days. And what I do is I go in and they're role playing, and I'll listen to them for about 20 or 30 minutes. And what I'm listening for is is there one or two things that everyone seems to be doing that if they did it a little bit better, it would have a dramatic increase in their business. So I'm listening, observing, and then when I identify, which I identify something every time, when I identify that, I will stop them from role playing. This is only one time. So they might be role playing multiple times during the week, but the one time that I'm there, I may only let them go about 20 minutes. I'll say, hey, I just picked up on something, and then I'll coach on whatever that topic is, at that moment, knowing that, hey, here's 10 or 15 people that are really looking to grow their skills. Give them a little bit of extra coaching so they can go out in their generation time and convert more business.
Kind of very similar to the way you do out on the floor when they're actually prospecting.
Yes, it's just that we're really honed in on scripts and role playing at that moment.
So they don't have to think about it when they're actually making the call.
That's right. You guys need to get into the financial conversation 100% of the time. So when somebody says, you're calling a condo and a second homeowner or investor, and I'm just kind of curious, when do you plan on selling? You're not?
No plans at this time.
No plans? Okay. How often did you come down and get use of your property?
Honestly, I've been there about a year or two.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't believe how many times I've heard that. I mean, as a matter of fact, if you've even been here in the last year, you probably visited your property more than most people that own these condos down here. I'm assuming you rent the property since you're not using it, right?
Yeah, it's on the on-site rental program.
Yeah, and I tell you, I've had a lot of people, talk to me about how discouraged they are with their rental income in this particular building. So, I'm assuming, or tell me how much are your rents? What kind of rents are you bringing in?
It's bringing in about, I'd say, 22, 25 grand a year.
And you're probably still using the on-site office for rental?
Yeah, and that's on a 60-40 split.
Yeah, they're taking 40, but they say they're taking 40, but you know how that is. They take 40 and then they add the credit card fees. It's really about 45, 55, and then you got the maintenance.
Yeah, some upgrade fees for the unit. They want us to put in new bedding, new TVs.
Now, you still have a mortgage on the property?
No.
Okay.
No mortgage.
Okay, so now through this conversation, the property, let's just assume the property is a $200,000 condo. Yeah. It rents for $22,000 with a 45% fee. So I'm going to call that a 50% fee because there's always like credit card fees and all these little things, right? Yeah. So 22 is only $11,000 in adjusted rents. Okay, then he's got a HOA fee of $600. 600 times 12 is what's that? $7,200. Yeah. So now that $11,000 that he's got is now only $4,000, and then he has taxes of $2,000. So the $4,000 is only $2,000. He doesn't even have a mortgage, and he's only making $2,000 on a $200,000 investment. And when we now turn in. Do a calculation to figure out what the annual return is, he's making 1% per year annually.
That's if nothing breaks.
That's with no mortgage and no maintenance, nothing breaks. Doesn't have to recarpet it. Making 1% on his investment. So hold on. So now I sit there and say, now you've got $200,000 sitting in this account in the Vista, in the condo. Yep. Now, if you had that $200,000, where would you reinvest it? If you were to sell, where would you reinvest your money?
Probably in some retirement stocks, things like that.
Probably something safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, something where you could preserve your capital. So let's just assume that you only made 4% on that money. 4% would be $8,000. A year. So instead of making $2,000, you could be making $8,000, and you're not using the condo. So by having your money parked in these mutual funds, it's not taken away from anything. All you're doing is repositioning your cash from one investment that's making 1% to something that's actually making, let's just say, 5%, 4%. Yeah. So I'm just kind of curious. I mean, if we could get your property sold and get your cash out of here and put you in a position to actually reinvest that where you can make some more money, is that something you'd at least consider?
Yeah, I would, but I'm thinking I'm going to wait till after the holidays.
Got it. So the key is all of these properties are losing money, and that's all around America. I mean, most real estate agents don't know really how to calculate the true annualized return, and they miss opportunity costs and all these other things. And the reality is they're really not great investments. Yeah. Okay. So every time you're talking to a property owner that says that they don't want to sell, ask them, hey, I'm just kind of curious. I've been talking to some other people in the area. I'm just kind of curious, how are your rentals? And then that'll engage you into that conversation. That'll trigger that conversation. And then you start going and asking question after question and go from there. Yeah. So at this point, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and do some research. Come over, take a look at your house. And at the end of at the end of our meeting, if I can get you your $25,000, I'm going to tell you. And if I can't get your $25,000, I'm going to tell you. Either way, I'll be upfront and honest with you. Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So would 1 o'clock today be good, or would 2 be better?
2 be better. I'm not going to list it today. I got to talk to the wife. We got to think about it. Yeah. Like I said, we need at least that out of it.
Yeah, I got it. And I understand that we're not necessarily going to have a conversation about whether you're going to list today or not. I think the main thing we need to accomplish is to determine whether or not we can get you your $25,000 or not. I mean, once we determine we can get you the $25,000, I'm sure you'll go ahead and sell the property. Is that correct?
Probably. I've got to talk to the wife.
Understood. And when talking with your wife, what is one of the things that you're really going to look for in the conversation with your wife?
I think she'll be on board. I'm not going to speak for her. I just got to make sure.
Yeah. Does she want to move?
We've been talking about getting a house. Like I said, we were young and single. We bought it. We got 2 kids now. You know, dog.
Yeah. If she was to determine that she wanted to move, for what reason would she be wanting to move?
Same thing, you know, just we're kind of outgrowing this condo with the kids now.
Yeah, understood. So you said 2 o'clock would be better, or 1?
2.
Okay, I'll see you there at 2.
Okay, sure.
Got it. So, you know, what you can do is you're repeating. First of all, you are doing a great job. Okay, your questions are really good. He wasn't, as you were asking additional questions, he was giving you the same information, right? 10%, 10%. Well, we need to break that pattern. So let's find out what 10% represents. Well, then he says, well, I'm going to be buying something at $225. He still didn't tell us what 10% represented. So you had to ask again. And then finally he said about $25,000. You see, what I'm trying to do when I'm having a conversation about $25,000, it sounds a lot easier to get him $25,000 than it does $165,000, then $225,000. I wanted to start talking about a smaller number, which was the $25,000 for his next down payment. So once we minimize that to $25,000, it doesn't seem as intimidating.
As big.
Yeah, as big. You know, that was my intention here. Okay. Then it really comes down to just looking at the numbers, and if it makes financial sense for you to sell, you'll sell. And if it doesn't make financial sense for you to sell, then you won't sell, right? Right. There's not a person that owns a second home or an investment property on the oceanfront that I cannot logically convince that it's the right thing financially to do to sell. So you see how I just set you up.
Can you walk us through some of the other systems where you help the agents?
Yeah, I know we kind of talked about and touched on some of the support systems
Sure.
that I have. I also really focus, I'm a generator at heart.
Right.
You know, I love to generate. So I've really built systems around staff that is in charge of, say, web assets. Like, you know, I've got a great staff member named Sarah, and she focuses on all our web assets in InfusionSoft, as well as the multiple Real Geeks websites that I'm running. And, part of what she does is she'll go in and make sure that our databases are being managed correctly, that things are getting into InfusionSoft, that campaigns are running. I actually sent her out to Arizona to get trained on InfusionSoft. So sometimes I'll think of a new idea, like we need to do a campaign on just solds, where we can get that out on a weekly routine. Right. But making sure that the campaigns are built, that when we run campaigns on the entire company's database, that when people are clicking through the campaigns, that alerts are going to the individual agent who actually entered them into the company database. Right. So it's not that agents are putting stuff in our database and then it's just all the leads go to the company. We have it actually programmed where if they put it in, the lead goes back to them. So this is Sarah Hughes, and Sarah basically manages and is the head of all of our web assets, our databases. She's very, very skilled at database management, and for those of you that know that we use InfusionSoft, she's the intelligence behind that program. So what are some things that you're working on right now?
We're currently working on building our databases in InfusionSoft. We have the agents building their database as well as it's linked with Real Geeks. We have about a little over 100,000 leads total, with 75,000 of those coming from Real Geeks. I manage what the agents are doing in Real Geeks, make sure that they're responding and contacting all the leads. We make a report that is sent to Greg. He reviews, which I think helps with your coaching and how to direct with that. It's pretty much it.
So one of the things that she's referring to is we have over 100,000 documented property owners that are getting some sort of content from us via InfusionSoft on a monthly basis, and there's a lot of reporting that you have to give us in order to make good, intelligent decisions. So some of the reporting that she'll give me will share with us how many leads we generated, how many went to the agents, what the conversion ratio is, and anytime the conversion ratios are not up to standards, those are coaching opportunities for me to go and communicate with those agents. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So she's also handling the Real Geeks and, looking at, who's, we know there's a direct correlation between how frequently somebody logs into their Real Geeks account.
Sure.
And the production that they do. Somebody that's only logging in once every 3 or 4 days, she's going to cut them off and not give them leads.
Right.
Okay, that's one of the things that she's monitoring on a daily basis.
So she's monitoring all your web assets,
all of them.
all the email marketing, the lead gen too within the Real Geeks CRM.
All of Zillow. So like I think every Tuesday, it just changed. So every Tuesday I get an in-depth report on Real Geeks. I get a Real Geeks report card is one of the things that she sends me, and then she does a Zillow report. And so she'll look at these, both of these documents she'll send me have all the data, all the intel, the analytics of what's going on with every zip code, every agent, how many contacts did they make compared to how many leads did they get. So what's the return off the agent? What's the return off the zip code? Where do I need to coach them? All this stuff is showing up on spreadsheets for all the systems that we have. So I'm being sent that on a Tuesday, and that information right there that she's sending me cues me up as to what type of changes, shifts that I need to make, as well as, hey, I see that my company seems to be a little bit weak in converting, so now that gives me an idea of what I need to coach on.
I know you mentioned social media. You have a social media and marketing department.
Yeah, so Lindsay.
Lindsay does that.
Lindsay is basically the head of marketing within the operation. So here we have Lindsay, and Lindsay's the head of our marketing department. Of course, I'll let her explain what all she does, but I can assure you that there's many, many things that she's doing with social media, etc. So why don't you just kind of tell us about a few projects maybe you're working on right now?
Okay. Well, with all the social media, I do a new listing sequence, which takes each new listing that we have in the market and takes it from a blog post that helps with SEO settings and gets it all the way to Facebook and Craigslist and putting it on all the social
Pinterest,
media.
I think.
Yep, Pinterest as well, Instagram, making sure it's on all the channels and making sure that all the social media sites are maintained.
Yeah, so basically when an agent brings in a listing, she'll take that listing and there's probably maybe 9 or 10 different channels that she's going to make sure that property is represented on, not only to satisfy the agent and provide the service to the agent that we're doing some things for them and their property, but then the agent can turn around and give that information to the seller and notify the seller that, hey, they're working for them. Now, you're doing a lot of stuff on Facebook, and I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I think you were telling us about some ads. Didn't you do a seller lead ad recently that gave us a good return? The Belgrove one?
Yeah, the Belgrove one we got, was it like 16 cents cost per lead or something?
Yeah, I think there was
34 clicks and 11 full leads and 18 partial ones.
Yeah. So basically, she's been able to really focus on social media marketing, has gotten some of our ads to perform at maybe 16 cents per lead. So there's some exciting things. Now, that's not an average, but that is the things that she's working on constantly.
Yep, always changing.
And one of the things that's really hot right now is social media. We don't do a lot of direct mail,
right?
But we do something, but we don't do a lot of it. But right now, it's really social media, and she's using the Facebook posting tool. Is one of the things that she uses on our websites, and she's posting, or her team, because she has a VA now, they're posting multiple Facebook boosting or boosted posts on a daily basis and generating, I think she generated 150 or a little bit more than that seller leads just within the last 30 days. That's distributed out.
So 150 seller leads, and then she's also boosting the listings as well, too, right?
So, one thing that's really, that my agents have really loved that we did is when a new listing comes in, okay, that listing gets put into Dotloop and people are processing it. But my marketing department does have a little bit of involvement. One of the things that they do, and I'll slow it down a little bit to make sure you get the impact.
Sure.
The listing goes in. Well, one of the required fields or things that the agent has to provide is pictures. Got to have pictures, right?
Sure.
Well, she takes those pictures and puts them on Pinterest, links them back to our website. She then takes the description and she writes a blog and puts it on the Real Geeks the website under the blog. So blog's the new listing as a coming soon listing because it's not in the MLS yet.
So that beats everybody else to the market.
Absolutely. The goal is to get it indexed before. Then she goes to Google Plus and she writes a small little snippet blog and links it to the website. Then she goes to Facebook and posts it on Facebook and starts promoting. And we have multiple Facebook pages. So it's being promoted on multiple Facebook pages. Then she takes it and promotes it on Instagram. Then she puts it on linked in on a profile that we have there. So she's doing all these things, and then she's providing a report to the real estate agent that's branded with the real estate agent. It says online marketing report, and she copies and pastes the URLs for everywhere that she's posted it, gives that to the real estate agent. The real estate agent can then give that to their owner, to the seller, to the
to let them know, hey, we're doing all this for the listing, to promote the listing. We're going crazy.
Yeah. So what I'm doing is saying, hey, if you're one of my agents, I'm saying, hey, here's what we're doing for you.
Sure.
If you're one of my agents, you're turning around and taking that exact report, because we've branded it in a way where you can then take it to your owner and say, here's what I'm doing for you. So my marketing department is really focusing on how do we enhance the business of our real estate agents, as well as making sure that everything we do, because that enhancement of helping you better your business is also a lead generator at the same time.
Sure.
Because we can generate leads from those things.
More
that
leads.
we're doing.
And I had a question too. When you say you're linking back to the website, is it linking back to that coming soon individual page or just the general website? I would imagine that individual blog post.
It's linking to the blog.
The blog.
Now the pictures on Pinterest will link to the community page of whatever community that home is in.
Right.
So we've got the links going to the community page, as well as it's linking to the blog.
And that's helping your SEO. And
it's hard to tell.
Well,
it's hard to tell.
Social signals.
That's one of those
spammers
things.
don't go out and do that.
I don't know that it's really going to help or it's not going to help. But let me tell you what it is doing. It's enhancing the value that we bring to our agents, and it's enhancing the value that our agents are bringing the consumer.
Right.
And if we bring value to our agents, that's great for attention and attracting great talent.
Sure.
And if they bring value to the consumer, then that's going to bring them more business also. That's really what that's all designed for.
You guys bring a ton of value. You're doing basically everything for the agent except for the prospecting.
We just
and
want
going
them
on appointments.
if the agent will just show up, we'll have a positive mindset. We'll have a giving attitude, meaning I want to help the next person that's coming into the company.
Yeah.
If they'll just get in, that's kind of the culture. If they'll just dive in and just kind of blend in with that culture, we'll bombard them with leads and coaching and processes and systems to help them get to the next level. I mean, in my mind, if you don't get to the next level at this company, it's the only thing that's in the way is you.
The culture around here is amazing, and if you just show up here, you're going to get drug along. You're going to be successful.
Yeah.
And if you show up with a great attitude, I mean, the sky's the limit.
So Daniel is our graphic designer, and part of what he does is to support the others, right?
Sure.
There's times where we need logos or banners. Lindsay, who's posting and really working on the lead generation through social media, she needs artwork. So this is Daniel. He's our graphic designer. Of course, that's one title that he has, but I'm sure he has many, many hats. So why don't you just kind of tell everybody what you do?
Yeah, my name is Daniel Little. I work with the postcards. I design Facebook ads. I do anything from every door direct mailers. I work with websites and setting them up for the agents. I also help, deliberate with the agents on what marketing strategies work best for certain budgets and stuff like that when it comes to mailers.
One of the real important things that he's working on right now, I think, is marketing plans. So for the individual agents that we have, you're customizing marketing plans for them to go out and use in the field in their listing presentations. Is that?
Yeah, we're doing new marketing plans that are customized to the agent, along with their testimonials and everything that goes along with selling themselves as an agent.
Great. One of the projects that he works on that's been so valuable is we've got multi-page marketing booklets. Meaning, if you're a real estate agent, you go and sit down with him and talk with him, and we'll build you out a customized marketing book that basically says, here's what I do to market homes and here's what I do to sell homes, that you can then turn around and email or print off and
send to a potential
and send to your
customer.
potential clients. A lot of people use them as their pre-listing package. It basically answers the question, what are you going to do for me?
Right.
It may also address your team if you have a team and whatnot.
Sure.
So those things take time, and we have a professional on staff that's doing that. Or business cards, or if somebody needs help, want to have a nice design on a Facebook banner, then he'll do that. Or if we need to put some designs or something on the Real Geeks website, he'll do that. Probably one of his biggest responsibility is a program we call, or a system that I created called Community Domination. So what ends up happening is there will be 5 or 6 agents that, maybe have opted in that they want to do some direct mail. Well, we go in and I personally actually write an article, a kind of a monthly newsletter.
Sure.
He takes that and then he has newsletter templates that he's customized for individual communities. And one agent can choose a community and I write the actual newsletter. He then designs it. Now he's already got it templated, so it's kind of like a design that's like a newsletter. And he'll go in though and put new pictures in depending on new listings and solds. The agent's doing nothing. The agent just says, hey, yes, I want to do community domination plan for XYZ community. Then all of this is being done. The materials are being created by Daniel, sent off to the mail house. The mail house then sends the postcards here. The agent comes in and picks them up and actually takes them to the post office and mails them. But everything's just done. Only the agent has to say is, I'm committed to focusing on community domination.
Sure.
Now the community domination is more than just direct mail. It's Facebook posting on that community on a monthly basis, direct mail on that community on a monthly basis.
Sure.
Then they're getting an email 1 to 2 times a month from that agent in that community. And then that agent's gonna have them on a call schedule to call that same community once a quarter. That's community domination.
That is total domination.
It's shock and awe.
Yeah.
We're going to hit them by email. We're going to hit them by the mailbox. We're going to hit them by the phone.
Sure.
We're going to hit them by everything, right? And over the next 12 months, if you do that, my belief is you'll have a 20% penetration of that community. And so I do have agents that are doing that. Daniel's responsible for that whole program.
So he's
working
amazing.
phenomenal.
All right. Okay. And then you also had mentioned an onboarding person.
Yeah. Oh, so Tammy, onboarding is so important. When we bring agents into the company, I mean, especially we're so committed to helping these agents grow, and we've got so many systems. It takes a little while for someone to come in and really learn all the resources and tools that they have at their beck and call. So here we have Tammy, and Tammy is she is in charge of all the onboarding. And onboarding agents is a challenging task, especially when you're running 4 different offices in 2 different markets, and she has to have all the onboarding systems to be consistent so she can kind of keep things flowing. And in addition, she's really my go-to when it comes to project management. So anytime I have a big project that I want to bring into the company, then she's my go-to. She kind of heads that in. One of them is like 5.9 in the dialer that we have that's custom to our company. So what are some of the things that you're working on right now?
Well, like you said, it's any new agent that comes into any of his companies, whether it be a brand new agent or a transfer, they'll stop and meet with me first, and we'll take care of a lot of the housekeeping, the admin side of it, introduce them to the staff, and then we'll get them up and running with their coaches and on the phones and generating revenue. Other than that, I will work on miscellaneous projects that Greg wants to implement into the company. Stuff like go to webinar, we'll get that set up. The 5.9, the new dialer system he mentioned, items like that.
Yeah. So she's responsible for bringing them in. And we have training more than me just getting on the phone and coaching them over conference calls.
Yeah.
We have a lot of training programs that, depending on if they're a new agent, new licensee, then we have a 30-day program that she rolls them into and explains all the things that they're going to be introduced to.
Sure.
Doesn't teach them how to do a lot. It's really introducing them to all the things that they have available to them, especially resources, and introducing them to people.
Right.
Then once they get out of that, then they have another 90-day program where we're actually focusing on helping them generate momentum, getting the listings, working these buyers. So she's like air traffic control. Got all these systems and multiple offices in 2 different markets, and all these agents. One's coming in from Charleston this week, new agent in that office, new agent in North Myrtle Beach, new agent in Myrtle Beach. She's got to coordinate all of that and make sure that every one of them is getting the same level of service and getting the value that we deliver. The other thing that she does is sometimes I will decide I want to do a whole project. Let's stop using these Mojo dialers, and nothing wrong with Mojo. That's not the point. But maybe I'll say, can we customize our own dialer? Because I want some bells and whistles that maybe some other things just don't have.
Sure.
And, so I'll go in and say, let's go ahead and transfer and build this dialer. Well, she would be responsible for going and interviewing multiple dialer companies, coming to me and telling me, I've interviewed 10, I like these 3. She then brings me in. I say, well, I like that one. She chooses that one, and then she leaves me alone, and she goes and helps with the development of that. And then she brings me back in and say, this is where we are. What do you think? And next thing you know, 6 months, 8 months, sometimes 12 months later, she's actually totally overhauled systems in our business.
So she helps you spearhead projects and run the business that way.
She's a fantastic project manager.
Nice.
And she allows me the time to do what she allows me to stay in my lane, and I allow my staff to stay in their lane. So I empower them to make some very important decisions for me so I can actually stay in the lane that I know best, which is lead generation.
But it sounds like you've empowered them all so they can help you grow the business and try different things and give better service to your agent.
Absolutely. I've got basically my rule with my staff on projects is I want to be involved for the first 10%. I want you to run with it for the next 80% and then bring me back in the last 10%.
And then we'll fine tune it.
That's it.
We'll fine tune
10,
it, see where
80,
we're at.
10. I want it, first 10% I need to be involved. The next 80, you're on your own. The next 10, bring me back in, and then we'll launch. And I don't know how you work, but I can tell you when I'm involved in the 80%, I'm screwing it up.
Right.
Because I'm like bombarding them. Well, no, let's change this and change this. Well, they may have actually came to the same conclusion. They're just at some stage in the process that hasn't come up yet.
Right.
So I need to give them their space so they can work efficiently. And I don't hire people for their time. I hire people for their minds.
Sure.
And if I'm going to hire them for their minds, then I need to let their minds do the work.
Right. So you're hiring them for the talent they are.
Yeah, I'm looking for talent. You know. Stacey's, she's like my lifeline, she's there taking care of me, which is probably the hardest job in the business right now is to manage me. So now let me introduce you to one of the most important people in the company, and this is Stacey Weaver. And I guess officially, her position is my personal executive assistant. What are some things that you do? What does your day look like?
My day is pretty busy. And it really is managing everything for Greg so that he can focus on producing his business and managing his companies. So my day really starts with constantly handling his incoming calls, emails, outgoing calls, any new incoming business, his listings, his negotiations, his schedule. So putting things in his schedule, making sure he's showing up to where he's supposed to be. Any kind of questions from agents, sometimes needing assistance on their own listings or their own hiring of other employees, and just really doing everything for Greg so that he can focus on what he has to do to grow his business.
I think she summed it up right there. Pretty much does everything for Greg. So a few things that you may want to kind of pick up on is she actually does check my email multiple times, and the majority of the emails that go out of my email are really from her. And then she'll flag which ones that I really need to pay attention to. And the same thing goes with my cell phone. You probably call my cell phone how many times a day?
Probably about 8 to
10.
10.
So she probably calls my cell phone about
Every
8 to
hour
10
and a
times.
half.
Yeah, I haven't actually activated or checked a voicemail in multiple years. I'm not even sure how I would check my voicemail because she's in my phone around 10 times a day, making sure that anybody that's left a message, she'll call them if I'm not available, or she'll take care of it, or she'll let me know exactly what I need to tend to. So that kind of sums it up, even though I'm sure we could talk for hours about all the things that she does.
All right, Greg, I really want to thank you for allowing my team and I to come in here and hang out with you for the week. And I know it's going to be very valuable for all the Keeping It Real viewers.
Yeah, well, I'm honored. I think one thing that you and I have in common, especially, I got to know this about you when you started these Keeping It Real episodes and whatnot. I think both of us are committed to really giving back to the community of real estate agents across the country. So I thank you for coming out here and bringing your team out here and giving us an opportunity to share our message and hopefully we'll both together make a contribution to the industry.
Keeping It Real on Location is produced by Real Geeks. Visit keepingitreal.com to opt in and be notified by email so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. You can follow us on Facebook, where we're constantly posting educational and training material. You can also follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel. To find out more about Real Geeks and what we offer, you can visit our website at www.realgeeks.com.